Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight our guest is Elsa Byskov, and I probably butchered that. Sorry, Elsa. She's just trying to get me to pronounce it. It's Danish. We're going to talk about her book, Death is an Illusion. Really going to get into the topic we've been into the last few months, is reincarnation. It's something that's really interests me. I think it's the key to the mystery of the afterlife and to what goes on in our lives that we just don't realize. It could unveil so much. And I encourage anybody who has any experience with past lives or interest in to call in tonight. We will have 2 phone lines open out of the 4. We'll give those out later in the show when you can call in. And of course, we have a lot of weird tonight. What we do every Sunday night is World Wide Web of Weird, so we definitely want to get rolling into the show because we got some good stuff and a lot to talk about. So let's get rolling into it. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. Tonight's guest, Elsa Byskov, will join us after the World Wide Web of Weird. She's going to be joining us by Skype. That means we only got 2 phone lines to call in later in the show open. That's the 219-230-4444 line will be open, and the Skype ID OOJBland00. You can call in those, but not yet. Just wait. We will take phone calls later in the show. And I've talked about it on the show. I've had my past life 2 dreams, I believe, were past life. They were just so intense. If you've had anything like that, please call in and share. Even if you've talked about it before on the show, I'd love to hear it again. It's a great topic. Speaking of, let's get to our panel. They are here with us. My lovely co-host is at least tonight. We got Jamie D. How you doing tonight?
Doing good. Been looking forward to this one all week.
Yeah, me too. You know, we do love this topic of reincarnation, and it's about the philosopher Martinus. She discovered, I think, in 1995, she ran across his writings and that. So we'll get into that. I don't know much about him. I guess he's kind of like a secret, Danish secret philosopher. So we'll get into a lot of those topics tonight. But we do have a lot of weird to cover, and we got Jeffrey Chan running the World Wide Web of Weird. So let's go ahead and roll into the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, we're going to start off with another story from singular14.com. They've had a lot of these cryptid stories around my area, Indiana and Illinois. This one's Illinois. Large winged being covered in dark fur reported in Woodstock, Illinois. This is from February 22nd from singular14.com. Those listening on our Paranormal Soup radio channel, we are a webcast. We do play videos, show pictures, and stuff that you can see. If you are interested, you go to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup's Facebook page, or you can go to our YouTube channel under Paranormal Soup or Jason Bland if you want to watch. Otherwise, just listen. I will narrate the best I can. All right, this first article, like I said, comes from singular14.com. Large winged being covered in dark fur reported in Woodstock, Illinois. Article from Tobias Wayland. Lon Strickler of Phantoms and Monsters received an email recently from his wife of a man who she said had recently had an encounter with a strange being on the evening of February 22nd. My husband was returning home last night from a trip to Walgreens. While driving home, he saw something coming across the road from Dewfield Pond entrance on Country Club Road in Woodstock, Illinois. He said it was approximately one-third the width of the road, 8 to 9 feet tall, and part of it looked leathery, but he wouldn't call it leather exactly. He is interested in speaking to you about it, but this afternoon he didn't seem ready to talk to you. I've asked him if he could sketch what he saw before he forgets. He indicates he's not going to forget this. The email was followed shortly with another that included a photograph of a footprint. I didn't put the footprint up here, but you can go find it at singular14.com. He said he will call you tomorrow if that's okay. I was home when this happened, so I didn't see anything. All I know is I believe my husband. I did go out to Dewfield this morning because we have had snow, ice, slush to see if I could see any traces of whatever this was. There was a lot of tracks and prints near the entrance, mostly boot prints, but some did not look like boots. However, it was hard to tell. Like I said, I didn't share the photo of that. I've then talked to a witness who stated that he was driving on County Club Road near the entrance of Dewfield Pond Conservation Area in Woodstock, Illinois. Suddenly, a large biped ran out of the road approximately 30 feet ahead of him and quickly crossed to the opposite side, said Strickler. He said that he thought it may have been a Bigfoot initially, but then noticed that it had a large set of membrane wings attached to the back, extending over the top of its head, he continued. He described the shape of the wings as that of a gargoyle. The body was 8 to 9 feet in height, covered in dark fur. The arms and legs were defined. He didn't notice any facial features. He got an excellent look at the creature since his headlights illuminated it, and the light from the conservation area, backlit it as well. The creature bears a striking resemblance to one described by an Indiana man who claimed to have been abducted as a young child by a winged humanoid in 1969. He also stated that he had felt it was a warning or a harbinger of some kind, kind of like the Mothman is what I'm thinking of. He did mention Nephilium when discussing the encounter. It had upset him, and he was unable to talk about it until the next day. So you can read more about it at the singular14.com. These stories are happening more and more, it seems like, in this area. We have like some kind of Skinwalker Ranch wormhole area that these things are slipping through. It seems like the whole between Wisconsin, Indiana, or Illinois and Indiana, there's something. I don't know. And then you got the Michigan Dogman. I guess it's just all over. All right, let's move on. Number 2 here. This isn't from Florida. I'll give it that. NewYorkPost.com has this article. Creep convicted of breaking into home and sucking on sleeping women's toes. Yes. A California man convicted of sucking on sleeping women's toes after breaking into her home claimed to be Zeus like God sent to Earth to seduce women. You're not doing very good, buddy. Richard Malik Parkhurst, 29 of Norfolk, was convicted of 1 felony burglary count, 1 count of peering into an uninhabited building, and 2 counts of indecent exposure for a wild chain of events that unfolded after he got exposed himself to a woman walking her dog in October 2017. Nice dog, he told the woman, according to the court papers, before exposing himself and saying, "I'm walking mine too." Oh, God. Later that same day, he snuck into a sleeping woman's home where the woman said she woke up and found the creep sucking on her toes. DNA evidence linked him to the offense, prosecutors said. Next day, Parkhurst peeped into an apartment through a mail slot and told the residents his girlfriend was attractive. Oh, wow, imagine that. Wow, this guy's super creepy. Mr. Parkhurst developed the delusion that he was Zeus-like God who was sent down from the stars to seduce women, his attorney wrote in court papers. It was his destiny to seduce women, and they would willingly have his children. Mr. Parkhurst believes that his progeny will create a super race that will save the planet. Oh, man. he gets this.
I just don't have the words.
He gets it. Twice. Okay, let's move on. All right, so we got a haunted painting. This is unexplainedmysteries.com. Woman faints after viewing haunted painting. Don't faint, people. All right, keep watching the show. I don't know. All right, the former ghost tour guide had been watching a presentation of haunted items in the New Inn of Gloucester in England. I probably butchered that. When she had an unexpected reaction to one of the items. As soon as I saw the painting that they call sinister, that's what was it, she recalled. It felt so ill that I was sick to my stomach. I had to go and tell someone that I did not feel right. It was so strange. The next thing I know is that I have collapsed and I'm looking up at a crowd around me. The painting itself shrouded in mystery. It had originally been commissioned for use in the 2018 horror movie Finders Keepers. However, the crew and director took such an intense dislike to it that they reportedly refused to use it. Since then, it has become associated with accounts of people feeling unwell when viewing it, and there have been stories of it moving from one side of the room to another when nobody's looking. It was interesting to see what happened that night, said Haunted Objects Museum owner Lee Steer. I have to report what happens around the picture and add it to the list of happenings. It was scary at the time because some collapsed during a Facebook Live broadcast as well. Footage from the event can be viewed. They got a link here for where it is at on Facebook, but you can find it. Unexplained Mysteries is the article. I don't know. Could it just be that she just happened to faint and that picture was there? I don't know. I do believe in haunted objects. I don't know. But, I mean, it's from a horror movie. I mean, it was commissioned? Did somebody just paint it for that horror movie? That's what it sounds like.
Maybe it was just in her mind.
Yeah, I mean, here, come look at this painting called Sinister. I don't know. All right, this next one I kind of have some beefs with, too. This is very viral. This comes from the mirror.co.uk. Pablo Escobar's ghost spotted during demolition of drug lord's Colombian mansion. For people listening, we got a video up here that's playing. You see them demolishing this building, and you see this like white thing like moving around. And I know our video isn't going to do it justice, so go to mirror.co.uk and see this. But yeah, watch it here. I'll read the story before I give my opinion. Authorities in Medellin want to turn the home into a memorial park in honor of the around 46,000 drug war victims. The ghost of Pablo Escobar was reportedly caught on camera pacing the halls of his 8-story luxury mansion moments before it was demolished. The palatial home was brought down on February 22nd during an official government ceremony in the northern Colombian city of Medellin. I probably butchered that, sorry. The notorious drug lord and his family lived at the plush pad during the 1980s. During this period, he built an estimated fortune of $25 billion and supplied 80% of the world's cocaine. Escobar died in a shootout with police on December 2nd, 1993. Following the demolition, Colombian authorities wanted to turn the site into a memorial park in honor of the estimated 46,000 victims of the drug wars in South America country. Now, when you're watching this, the camera's kind of shaking and it kind of moves. I feel like it could be something in front of the camera, or a spot on the camera or something, because you notice it's zooming in, not the camera, but I think it's just zooming in from the video, so you're not seeing the full total movement of the camera. It could be something on the lens. I don't know. It's a bit odd. But that's one thing. That's like, is it something that could be on the lens? It's
looks like a spot on the lens to me. Yeah.
Kind of disappears there and comes back, though. I don't know. Could be the way the light hits it. I don't know. It looks like they're right there, like it's a spot on the lens. I don't know.
I'm going with spot.
Would be cool if it was his ghost. Yeah, watch your mansion fall apart. All right. Let's move on. All right, some more cryptid stuff here. Unexplainedmysteries.com again here. A Honduras man's death blamed on chupacabra. Unexplained death of the laborer in the village of El Norano has been attributed to, I probably butchered that, sorry, been attributed to the mythical goat sucker. The incident, which occurred on Tuesday morning in the municipality of, I can't say that, saw a local man reportedly killed and drained of all of his blood after being attacked by an unseen assailant. According to his neighbors, he had been resting under a tree when an attack happened. Beliefs and superstition concerning the legendary chupacabra, a vicious creature of varying descriptions said to drain the blood of victims, are particularly widespread in the region. As a result, many locals have come to believe that it was responsible for the man's untimely demise. The chupacabra is most commonly associated with attacks on livestock rather than attacks on people. However, to date, no conclusive evidence of the creature has ever been found in its existence. Like that of the Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster remains a topic of ongoing debate. We've had Nick Redfern on talking about his book, Chupacabra Road Trip. And man, there's the South American chupacabra, which is totally different from like chupacabras that were spotted more like near Texas. I mean, it's an interesting subject, but there's just never like it seems like there's more than one thing involved here half the time. And yeah, usually they don't attack people. It doesn't seem like they do. Maybe it's a vampire. I don't know. Drained his blood. The vampire's got a new thing that people can blame chupacabra, and the vampire gets away. I don't know. All right, we move on. Number 6 in the World Wide Web of Weird here. On the right one, right? Number 6. Yep. Number 6. Okay, lost my spot here. All right, so this is weird. Now we've had some stories of UFOs, these ring of lights in Minnesota before, and people blamed them on a casino. Now there's a new video out. You'll see these ring of lights here. The video kind of gets them for a second there. We'll see them. But you see the lights, not a total ring now. They're in like a different shape, but there's no way that's coming from the casino that people keep blaming it on. This was a puzzling film video in Minnesota appears to show an oddly shaped cluster of UFOs hovering in the night sky. The footage was filmed earlier in the week in the city of St. Louis Park and subsequently popped up online a few days later. As often the case, the footage was quickly picked up by a bevy of YouTube channels devoted to showcasing the latest UFO sightings. In the video, a total of 12 lights can be seen in the sky, seemingly in stationary positions. What makes this particular piece of footage interesting is that the cluster of UFOs appears to be in some kind of formation that they may best be described as shaped like a Christmas stocking. Unfortunately, the footage comes to an end after a mere 30 seconds and without any indication of how the light sighting concluded. And I hate that with videos. I mean, somebody might have just had a little battery power and took a camera, but I mean, I'd like to know how it ended. Film longer. Be that as it may, this curious collection of unexplainable lights captured the imagination of some UFO enthusiasts who have suggested that they were not individual craft, but merely a part of a larger ship that is cloaked. More skeptical observers have argued that the oddities were probably a drone formation or perhaps part of a light show, which we only got to see 30 seconds of, which, that's a lot of times these things turn out to be. But it's interesting since they've had, and it does, now that I say it, it does look like a stocking, the lights. I mean, maybe it is drones, but it is interesting. They've had these kind of lights now in Minnesota. More than once we've had this kind of story, so I don't know. It's interesting. All right. And then this last one found really interesting is this is about hospice. Documents this is from Coast to Coast AM. I got this because they had a short article on it. There's a longer article for this from, what's the website this originally was from? Here we go. Yeah, this is from Pittsburgh, CBS. Yeah, CBS 2 Pittsburgh. Who do you see before you die? Hospice documenting patients' mysterious dream experiences. A hospice in upstate New York has amassed a huge collection of intriguing dreams and visions that their patients have shared before passing away. The fascinating work of Dr. Christopher Kerr and his staff at the Hospice Buffalo in the town of Chictahua, I totally butchered that, were recently featured in an enlightening profile piece from TV station KDKA. In the subject, doctors recall how he had initially been skeptical about the pre-death phenomenon, but soon became a believer after a nurse explained that she could tell when someone was about to die because they would experience these visions. Kerr later learned that the nurse was not alone when it came to this unique ability. Everybody but me was able to predict death in a part based on what people were seeing or experiencing, he marveled. The phenomenon so intrigued the doctor that around a decade ago he began documenting these cases, and since that time, he and his team have collected a astounding 14,000 instances of patients reporting pre-death dreams and visions. According to Kerr, the phenomenon primarily takes the form of dreams in which a patient's already deceased loved ones visit them and indicate that they'll soon be returned. Remarkably, he revealed that the instances where it is a child having these experiences, they often report seeing pets who have passed away, since they are generally too young to have known anyone who have died. A total of whopping 80% of Kerr's patients have claimed to have had these visions before they depart earthly realm. Whether these vivid experiences are genuine or glimpses of visitors from afterlife is, of course, a mystery. For his part, Kerr conceded that he does not have an answer as to what may cause them, and expressed satisfaction with the simply documenting these experiences, which appear to have profound impact on his patients. You know, I've heard so many stories of people, you know, working in hospice or having family members in hospice, and they're near their time, and them talking about having dreams. But it's not just dreams. These people will see them wide awake in the room with them and talk to them near death.
Full visions.
Yeah.
Full visions.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know how many times we've had stories like that on the show. I always say, too, the most common paranormal experience for people is when they lose a loved one, and these experiences, and after they die, and having them connect with them, you know. But you do wonder, when they do say they have these dreams, you know, are they getting, you know, prepped for the other side through their dreams? And
I actually believe they are. I fully believe in all that.
I mean, I think loved ones come through on dreams. I had, like, recently my aunt passed away, and she was my grandmother's sister, and I had this dream I've talked about on the show where we were literally like in this curtain. There's like curtains around us, and they were there, both wearing black, like they're at a funeral, and they just sat down and gave me hugs. And I really feel like, I mean, maybe it was just my dream, but I really felt like it was real, like they were really there. And I've had other experiences like that, you know. My grandfather, when he passed, I saw him. Like, it was really vivid. That was almost a meditative thing. I shouldn't say that was a dream, though. I was actually trying to do it then, which was a really weird experience. But still, it's kind of dreamlike, because I felt asleep almost, but I wasn't. It's a weird experience. But I definitely believe our loved ones can come to us through our dreams. We are going to talk about death tonight, but death as an illusion. If there's one premise of this show is that we're always exploring that idea that death is an illusion, because I believe it is an illusion, especially if you get into that topic of reincarnation. You know, have we lived before? I'm always saying I'm agnostic, but I'm a really strong believer that it's a good possibility after some of the dreams and experiences I've had. And I want to know, have you had those experiences? Do you believe it, or do you believe it's a bunch of crock? I mean, be polite though if you call in, if you have your doubts about it. I've had friends, you know, that believe in it. I have friends that don't believe in reincarnation. I understand both perspectives, but to me, there's something to it. There's something we need to explore with it. So please, later in the show, call in. There are going to be two phone lines. The 219-230-4444 phone line is going to be available. There is also the Skype ID, OOJBland00. You can call in on those, but save it till probably after the second commercial break, and then we'll probably start taking phone calls into the show. And I'm really interested, if anybody who watches the show, if you've had a dream you think was a past life. I know I've had two, and I might have had more and just didn't realize that's what I was seeing in the dream. But the two I had, I know because of how vivid they were. Have you ever had that dream where you woke up and it was just so real, but you didn't understand any of it? It could have been a past life. It could have been seeing something you didn't understand because it was somehow telling you about your past life. And does that, to you, if past lives are real, does that mean we live eternal? Or is it kind of throw everything out the window because you forget who you are? We just got Rob that joined us, I think. Let's make sure Rob's sound is working. You there, Rob?
Hey, I'm here. How's it going?
Pretty good. You're running late. It's all right.
I'm running late, and I'm really dark right now, but I like
I know. I don't have it up where the audience can see you, but here. There you go. Now you can see you. So, all right, Rob's with us. That's awesome. Again, guys, call in 219-230-4444, Skype ID OOJBland00. You can call in now, but you'll be waiting until later in the show if you want to hang on hold. That's up to you. But I just suggest call in after the second commercial break. Speaking of that, we do need to get rolling into a commercial break. Don't forget, too, we do have a Patreon for Paranormal Soup. The link is in the show description on our YouTube page and on our Facebook page. Help out the show. You know, we're trying to expand more. I want to bring us onto the podcast store, too. We've been working on that. But your help, those donations do help fund that. That's all that money goes to, funding the show. And the more stuff we want to do, the more streaming we want to do. I would like to start streaming the show out to other places, too, and working on expanding it and upgrading the technology. So any donation you're willing to do will help. We will have exclusive content coming to that very soon. But we're going to talk to our guest tonight, Elsa Byskov. She was trying to get me to say it right. Sorry if I'm butchering it. We're going to talk about her book, Death is an Illusion, and the ideas of reincarnation. And again, guys, definitely later in the show, call in. I'm really interested. If anybody's had a dream like me, don't let me feel like I'm alone. Let me know. Have you had a reincarnation? I know you have. Cutting people's heads off. We didn't get into that last time, but we should get into that tonight. All right, guys, we'll be back after this short commercial break.
You were brought here for one purpose, necromancy.
A ceremony dating back to the pre-Christian era. It's the art of reviving the dead. It requires involvement with evil spirits by the person performing the act.
The devil god brings life to the dead.
No, please. No, please.
And death to the living. Necromancy. Starring Orson Welles and Pamela Franklin. From Cinerama releasing. In color, rated PG, parental guidance suggested.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brown on his 3 weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and InterfaceDeath.net.
He is conducting an experiment into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Hello, I am Fernando Martinez. I think by now you know I am an emotional kind of guy. People stop me in the street and say, Fernando, what the hell is wrong with me? Silk shirt, hairy chest, enough aftershave to drown a household pet, but I still cannot get a woman. I tell them you are an ignorant fool. Without the symbol of power and fertility around your neck, what kind of woman is going to respect you? That is why I have teamed up with Medallion Man, the shop for medallion needs. Medallion Man caters to all levels of masculinity. For the strong, silent type, a medallion the size of a hubcap will say everything that needs to be said. Even singing medallions for the Casanova who knows music is the food of love. Model trains, dollhouses, diapers, whatever your interest, we've got the medallion for you. Don't forget, every woman knows if you can't support a medallion, you can't support a family.
This is the sound of a space clock aboard a U.S. satellite 180 miles above the Earth. No one winds up this timepiece. It's powered by a tiny battery, a battery that delivers power for years without replacement. Now the same type of battery, the Duracell battery, can bring new reliability and long life to your battery-operated equipment. Radios, cameras, toys, all run far longer. Duracell batteries, the long-distance power cells, outlast any ordinary battery. The same type of battery that keeps space clocks running for years can bring long life to anything powered by batteries. Dura, as in durable. Cell, as in power cell. The Duracell battery, made by Mallory.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Switch to DCS ranging.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe, 5 by 5.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Elsa Byskov. She is an authority on spiritual science of Martinus. He was a Danish philosopher he lived from 1890 to 1981. Not many people know about him. I've heard of him, so I'm going to learn tonight about it. She's written a number of books. One of the main ones we're going to definitely get tonight is Death is an Illusion, really covering the topic of reincarnation. It's something we've had Gordon and Curly Smith on. We talked about with their children and their memories of past lives. Christopher Lee as a reincarnation past life therapist. We really have covered this subject a lot in the last 3 or 4 months, and there's a reason why. It's something I've always been interested in because I've had 2 really strange dreams in my life that I convinced were past lives. Otherwise, if I hadn't had those dreams, I don't know if I'd believe in it. But they really made me look at that idea. And so I'm going to get into that. Are we eternal? Is death an illusion? That's going to be the topic tonight. You can call into the show. 2 of the 4 phone lines are open. They're going to be the 219-230-4444 or the Skype ID 00JBland00. Don't call the other 2 lines. They're going to be down tonight. But those lines will be open. Just wait until we call upon you. But let's go ahead and get to our guest. You there with me, Elsa?
Yes, I'm here.
Welcome to the show. Good morning to you.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me.
And it's, I think it's about 5:30 a.m. your time, right?
It is indeed, yes.
Well, thank you. I didn't have like a full bio for you to read to the audience, so go ahead and tell them a little bit more about yourself and how you got involved with the philosopher Martinus.
Yes, well, I think my case was a case of when the pupil is ready, the teacher appears. Because, sorry, I've been a searching soul for my whole life, but I've never found anything that sort of appealed to me. I wasn't religious in any way. I didn't study any religions. They just didn't interest me. But still, I was looking for answers to the big questions. Why was I here? What was I doing? What was it all about? And then one day, a book about Martinus literally fell into my hands. And I at the moment I saw this book and I saw the name, I intuitively knew that this was where my search ended, and indeed it was. So I started looking into who this guy was, and I found out that he had written a whole number of books. So I started reading one of these books. His main work is called The Book of Life, Livets Bog. He wants it to be called in its Danish title in all languages, and it's 7 volumes and 3,000 pages.
Wow, that's a lot.
And yeah, it's a lot. But I read it like a starved person. I was so enthusiastic about it. Everything that I have ever wanted to know was in there. So I thought, whoa, I have to tell somebody about this. And this resulted in my first book, Death is an Illusion, which was published in 2002. So it's been on the market for quite some time now. And then, of course, I read the rest of his work, which comprises more than 10,000 pages of spiritual wisdom. And it is huge. I cannot tell you how big his work is. It explains everything and then some. And ever since I encountered it, and I started looking into it, that was in 1995. So it's 24 years ago. And ever since I've been studying it every day. Well, I've been reading in it every day. And it is like, it changed my life completely. It changed my whole outlook on life. And it's just like made me a completely totally happy person. And this happiness, I suppose, comes from knowing the bigger picture, knowing where we're coming from, where we're going, why death is an illusion, why reincarnation is absolutely factual, and why, I mean, the world is not going under. Everything is very good. That's basically the conclusion.
So it's like a positive outlook.
A what?
It's like a positive outlook.
Absolutely, totally positive.
Unlike an apocalypse at the end of the book,
Yeah. So, I mean, this is, since Death is an Illusion, I have published 6 other books. My latest book, which I have co-authored with a friend of mine, Maria McMahon, is called Reincarnation in a Nutshell. Why Reincarnation is Real. And it is only 127 pages, and it is like a short introduction, but also completely logical explanation as to why reincarnation is actually real. We all reincarnate. All life forms reincarnate, from atoms to cells to molecules to organs to plants, animals, people, planets. Everything reincarnates. Everything is life inside life. So, I mean, once you get that really under your skin and you realize that you are an eternal being on an eternal journey through spiritual and physical worlds, that certainly changes your outlook. But I suppose I should also say that why was this Martinus able to reveal all this? And that was because... Who was he? Yeah, well, who was he indeed? He was a very poor and humble boy born in the north of Jutland. Was also born in Jutland. That's the peninsula of Denmark. And he was born in 1890 in very poor circumstances. And he grew up with his uncle and aunt. He slept in a bed with 2 other boys. It was all very, very, very humble and down to earth. But he always had a very close connection to the divine. And he was a very unusual boy. And when he was 30, by the time he was 30, he lived in Copenhagen. One day, a book fell into his hand and he had to sit down to meditate. So he sat down and started to meditate on the concept of God. And when he did that, he felt that he left his physical body and was suddenly standing in front of something extremely divine. And he saw the figure of Christ coming towards him. And it walked right into him, and suddenly he could see the world spin, and he could see valleys and mountains and rivers and seas and whatnot. And it became too much for his consciousness, so he stopped the meditation because he couldn't bear it anymore. But the next day he sat down again, and again he experienced something very unusual. He was suddenly standing in a sea of golden threads. And anyway, after these two experiences, he realized that his consciousness had changed. His consciousness had become expanded in the sense that he could now not only see the physical world, but now he could look into the spiritual world behind and beyond the physical. And of course, he was very confused about what had happened to him, and he didn't really know what to do. But he then realized that after that, he couldn't read in any book, and it was all very strange. But after some time, he had sort of come to terms with this new state of mind, and he started writing. And from that day on, and until his death in 1981, he lived till he was 90. He wrote every day. He wrote for 60 years, and that is why he could write so much. But he wrote on the basis of his cosmic consciousness, because that is what he had achieved. He has simply achieved cosmic consciousness. And that means that every time he had a question, the answer would come down to him like it was downloaded. And then with his intelligence, he could find out what it was all about. So, and I mean, on the basis of this, he wrote all these pages. And somebody might say, yeah, but that was just his imagination. But when you have read it, you are absolutely certain no imagination could come up with answers like the ones Martinus comes up with. And he reveals a whole world picture comprising both the physical world and the spiritual world. And the spiritual world is a primary world. That is where everything has its origin, because everything also in our life, a thought always comes before the physical creation. So he was able to look into the origin of everything. And that is why his work is so extremely interesting. And there's absolutely nothing like it. It is the most complete revelation of spiritual truth ever disclosed to humankind. It is huge. What else can I say?
Well, yeah, so he was obviously raised as a Christian. He saw Jesus.
Yes.
So how does Jesus incorporate into his philosophy?
Oh, his work. He says when he was in his 70s, after he had been writing and writing and writing, he got a very strong impulse from the divine level, saying that his work was to be published with the general title of the Third Testament. So his work is actually a continuation of the New Testament. And when you read his work, he refers to the work of Jesus in many places, and explains how what Jesus said could be interpreted and understood today within this modern world. So it is really, it really is. I mean, once you have read it and you have understood it, there's no doubt that it is the Third Testament. But let me just say this: it is not a basis for a new religion. It is a basis for a merger of science and spirituality, because he reveals many things that are quite complicated, that can only be understood at this point in time with the scientific outlook we have today. I mean, had Jesus revealed what Martinus reveals today, nobody would be able to understand it. But 2,000 years have passed, and today we live in societies with a scientific outlook. And that means that we can understand a lot of things about basic energies, about structures, and so many things that could not be understood when Jesus lived. And indeed, Jesus also did say to his disciples, I have many more things to tell you, but you cannot bear them now. But the Spirit of truth that the Father will send in my name will reveal the whole truth to you. But I want to underline this, that Martinus' work is not a new religion, and it should not be treated as a religion. It should be treated as a revelation of eternal truths, and a revelation of how life works, the eternal laws of life. And yeah, so I mean, what I can reveal to you today is all based on what Martinus says. So, I mean, where should we begin?
You tell me. I mean, what was it? What was it that first, I guess, really hooked you in to waking you up to this reality?
It was probably the fact that I realized that I am primarily a spiritual being. I am not identical to this physical body. The physical body is an instrument that the spirit uses for its sojourn on the physical plane. But as I said, we are eternal beings and we are on an eternal journey. And one of the really huge things that Martinus reveals is this journey. What is it all about? Where are we coming from and where are we going? And how can we at all spend all the time that eternity implies? I mean, if you think about it, it's a lot of time. You can't even really get your head around it. But anyway, I mean, this was probably what fascinated me most. It was the outline that Martinus reveals about how we spend eternity, and for that, in order to understand that, he reveals that we move in cycles. We move through eternity in cycles and then in spirals. So we move in a cycle, and then it spirals up into the next cycle, and on and on and on it goes. And the universe is based on contrast. Our whole experience of life is based on contrast. Martinus says that we can only, yes, indeed, we can only experience something to which we have experienced a contrast, and that is why we have light in the spiritual world. The spiritual world is nothing but light and love and forgiveness and all the good things. And then we have to have, in order for the universe to exist eternally, it has to have a structure that will allow it to exist eternally. And for that reason, we have the physical world. The physical world, where we are now, is really a place where we can experience darkness. And that is actually what we have been doing for the last many, many centuries. We have been passing through the dark periods of this cycle that we are in at the moment. And I mean, if we look back at all the wars we have been through, like especially the last century with 2 world wars and many other wars, that was probably the culmination of that darkness that was necessary for us to experience, so that we would be able to experience, as we move along, the light of the spiritual world. So we come from the animal kingdom. No, we come really from the mineral kingdom, and then we move on to become plants, and then we become animals, and then we become humanoids. And at the moment, we are what Martinus calls earthly humans. We are not real humans yet. And many people will probably think, what is he talking about? Why aren't we real humans? And we aren't real humans because we are still very much in the grip of like hatred, anger, revenge, killing, murder, eating animals, not respecting life, being greedy, lying, cheating.
To me, that's the humans I know.
Yeah, exactly. And as long as we are still in this period, we can't be called real humans. But we are on a way, and every one of us is being taught every day when we wake up. We should think, oh, another day. The teacher is already standing at the blackboard, and I just have to understand that I am in a school here, and what is he teaching me today? And everything that happens to us is really an education, and that's education in becoming less greedy, less hateful, less revengeful, less all the bad things, and becoming more positive, becoming more all loving, forgiving, more moral, more helpful, more kind. And that is the road we're on at the moment. And I think it's once you realize that you're in a school and that you are being taught, I think life is becomes very, very interesting because it's obvious. Yes, do you want to say something?
Well, as I say, I think the one thing I always have, because I think that's the best idea of it is that life is like a school. But one of the I just think of an argument that I get with that is that if it's a school and you're learning lessons, then what good does it do you? Because then you forget it all when you're reborn.
No, that's the very good point. I'm glad you put it up because it is true that you cannot remember your past lives on a day conscious basis, but all your past lives are with you in the shape of the person you have become. It's not as if you lose what you have learned, because in your aura, in your consciousness, and your consciousness is what survives the death of the physical body, because your consciousness is a field of energy, and this field of energy cannot be destroyed according to the first law of thermodynamics. But in this field of energy, in your consciousness, you have something that Martinus calls your fate element. And your fate element is like a microchip. It's like a memory card. It's like a memory card where all your experiences are stored. And you take this with you into your next incarnation. So when you die from this incarnation, you will go back to the spiritual plane for a relatively short period of time, depending on many things. And then when you reincarnate, you take everything you have become with you into your next incarnation, and you continue your development from exactly the point where it stopped the last time you died. So it is a continuous evolutionary thing. And I mean, when we look at the talents that many people are born with, and Martinus clearly says that the talents we have are not something that we have inherited from our parents, which is the mainstream narrative. Our talents are something that we have because we have worked hard to get them. And when we are born with talents that none of our parents have, then where do they come from, if not from ourselves? And if you look at what you're good at, you will have a very clear indication of what you did in your past lives, what you did in maybe a few of your past lives. You will see that, oh, I'm really good at this. I must have been practicing this because otherwise I wouldn't be good at it. And I mean, today it's so great when you look at YouTube and you see all these children, 3, 4, and 5, they play the piano.
I was just going to point that out. Yeah, there's these child prodigies that just are amazing.
Exactly. And that is simply a result of things that they have practiced during former lives. Martinus clearly says that when you can play the piano like some of these children can, like the absolute virtuosos, he says it takes 3 to 4 incarnations of daily practice to reach that point of perfection. So, I mean, the more you look at it, the more you sort of get your head around the idea that you have lived before, you will start to see what you have been occupying yourself with in these former lives. Because, as I said, everything that you're good at will be a clear indication of what you have been practicing. And I think today, so many people are so good at so many things, and it is becoming more and more obvious that this cannot have come just out of the egg and sperm cell. It has to come from somewhere else. And it does indeed, because it comes from former lives, and it is something that we take with us from life to life. So, I mean, and also the whole idea of conception. Today, the mainstream narrative tells us that the egg and the sperm cell is all it takes to create a new human. And no, it is not. You need the information that is stored in the consciousness of an incoming soul in order to be able to orchestrate the whole embryogenesis. I mean, you cannot expect that the sperm and the egg cell are ignorant. They don't know.
You know where science is going, though, Elsa. You know where science is going. They're going to make synthetic humans. They're going to make. What's going to happen with those? Is there going to be something different about them when it comes to the spiritual side because of that?
You know what? All I'm saying is good luck with that. because they think they can do it because they have this very limited belief that all it takes is an egg cell and a sperm cell, and they are totally disregarding the completely overwhelming role played by the incoming soul. And okay, they might make an incoming soul participate in this game, and then they might not.
So it could be soulless. That's what I want. That's my question is, would it be soulless?
Will it be what?
Soulless. If they create a life genetically in a lab, no mom, no father,
No, it's not going to happen. It's probably not going to happen. And I mean, if they do it, it's not going to work, because they are disregarding the whole role played by the incoming soul, which has all the information about embryogenesis, which has all the information about how to make cell division and how to create the 200 plus different cell types that a human being has. I mean, they cannot do it. They're not going to be able to do it. Good luck with it, is all I'm saying.
Well, they're going to try. They're
going to try, and they're going to spend millions of dollars on it. But it really is based in a very limited concept of how life works. It really is.
Well, you mentioned that you go through the mineral, the plant, to animal, to human. So is it, if I die, I'm not going to come back right away as a human? I got to go back through the mineral stage? I got to become a mineral?
No. The mineral was eons ago.
That's the beginning of my consciousness.
The beginning of your cycle.
That's really interesting.
And now you have reached a point where you will become, every time you reincarnate, you will become a better version of yourself. You will become, because everything that you have learned, everything you've learned in this incarnation, you will take with you into your next incarnation, and you will be able to draw on all these experiences and all the wisdom that you have learned. You'll be able to draw on that in your next life. So for each life we live, we become more advanced, we become more moral, we become better looking, we become more intelligent. We simply move forward into towards the real human kingdom, which we will reach, according to Martinus, in about 2,000 to 3,000 years. In about 2,000 to 3,000 years, the population of the planet will consist mainly of real human beings. So we are actually getting quite close to where the real human being, the real human kingdom, will become a reality. I know we still have maybe 10 or 15 incarnations until we are there. But it is, I mean, when we think about all the incarnations that we have had since we entered the physical world as minerals and then plants and then animals, we're talking about millions of incarnations. And now we can look at it and maybe we only have 10 to 20 incarnations until we reach the real human kingdom. And then when we reach the real human kingdom, we will live on the planet where peace, there's no starvation, there's no poverty. Everybody lives in a completely harmonious world. And then when we have lived there for some time, we have no more to learn. Then we have no more to learn on the physical plane. We have sort of graduated as real human beings. And then we will go back to the spiritual plane and stay there for eons and eons and eons of time until we again need a contrast to all the light of the physical, of the spiritual world. And then we will start on a new cycle. And in that way, we move upwards in cycles and spirals. So, this is the sort of the master plan that Martinus reveals, and
it's something when we talk about this is something I've always felt innately since I was a kid. Because I always thought deeply about these things, deep thoughts of Jason, but I always thought deeply about these kind of things, and that's always my picture. If I had to take a best guess, I believed in reincarnation, and I believe that we are learning somehow. Each time we go, it becomes like our instincts or that gut feelings comes from your past lives, those things that tell you to
Yeah.
do this. That inner voice is that part of your
Exactly.
higher self that knows all that,
Yes.
knows all those things. And I also, one of the
Yes.
things I've always wondered too, you talk about when, people always wonder, well, why does my loved one come back to me right away after they die? Or, I've always thought this could, explain a lot, because when you die and you suddenly realize you're not this person, you're this person and this person and this person, you're something so much more, it kind of make things, all the stuff that went through your life, a little more detached, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, when you die, you are exactly the same as when you were when you still had your physical body. So you really are your unit, your I, the center of your being, your I. Not the I that you see with, but when I say I about myself, your I is the center of your being, and that is an eternal entity. And of course, it changes because it learns and it unlearns stuff. But you're always the same person, whether you have a physical body or not, because you are not identical to your physical body, and this entity that you are a part of you're also a part of course you're part of the universe, but you're also a part of God, because God is basically the universe and God are basically the same. So we are alive in this huge body, and there's life everywhere in the universe. It's not as if this is the only planet with life in it. Life is teeming everywhere. So of course we cannot understand God if we think that the universe has only life on this little planet. It is really quite a preposterous thought when you think about how big the universe is. So there's life everywhere, and yeah, you were thinking about that. You were that you knew. We were saying that you knew stuff from like your higher self, and that is absolutely true. It is absolutely true. And like, for instance, what you can find it in your heart to do to others is also a very good indication of how far you have come on your journey towards becoming real human beings. Because some people will, like, they don't have a problem killing other people or beating somebody.
Sociopaths, serial killers are the farthest thing from
exactly. That. Yeah, precisely. And what we should understand in this connection is that not everybody started on their journey on the physical plane at the same point in time. So some have advanced more on this journey than others. And there's no denigration in this. This is just stating a fact that not everybody is standing at the same level of evolution. So some people will have no problem killing and being terrorists and being suicide bombers.
Well,
because they think that is the right thing to do.
Well, when I think about it, I think about, because we talked about reincarnation. We always talk about reincarnating from one life to the next as a human. But if you throw in the factor that at one point in our evolution of consciousness we were animals, do kill. They kill to survive.
Yes.
And if somebody is just out of that animal kingdom, maybe in a human form. Because I just think of some of the serial killers who acted like animals. You know what I'm saying? That they take on a beast-like form, and they call it demonic or whatever.
That's a very good point, Jason. It's a very good point, because Martinus actually says that the animals, they only kill to survive, and they don't have any ulterior motives in this. They don't kill like tens of animals. They only kill the one animal they have to eat, and then they move on. But once and this is something to do with the basic energies, because the animal lives on its instinct. But as it moves forward on its journey, intelligence begins to play a role, and that is why at this point in time the Martinus's work has been revealed, because it only appeals to our intellect. It really appeals to our intellect. And once the intelligence comes into the animal's egoistic mindset, then it becomes a very dangerous cocktail. As we have seen in the last many centuries, you have an animal mentality with a high intelligence, and that is what will create atom bombs and new weapons and
serial killers.
Serial killers and all that, because they have not yet experienced the consequences of this mental attitude. And here we have the law of karma. Here the law of karma comes in. And the law of karma decrees that you reap as you sow. Everybody knows that. You reap as you sow. So when the serial killer has been out and killed a lot of victims, then in his next incarnation, he will become the victim of another serial killer. And he will, on his own body, feel and experience what it is like to be killed.
Well, doesn't it make a cycle? I mean, couldn't have some of the victims of Ted Bundy been serial killers in past lives? I mean, it seems like a cycle like that itself.
Yeah, no. Yes, in a way it is, but then it isn't, because when this serial killer has experienced what it is like to be killed, he will suffer, and the suffering will open the path to compassion and to not doing it again. I mean, once you have burned your hand on the fire, you don't go and do it again. So it is all really a build-up of experience of what you have done to others. And I mean, Martinus clearly says that nothing happens by chance, and everything that happens in our lives are things that we ourselves have sown. And of course, it's important here to say that this is not something that we have done on purpose, because nobody would create a dark fate for himself on purpose. It is something we do by default, because, as I said, we come from the animal kingdom. We don't have a lot of experience or a lot of knowledge about how the world works. So we do things that we probably shouldn't do because we don't know any better, because we're ignorant about the laws of life.
The animal kingdom is a pretty dark place. I mean, you
yes,
have to eat to survive. You have to kill to survive.
It's the darkest place of the cycle.
I would think so. But you also think it makes me think of, you watch those viral videos of like the dog that saves some kid's life, or a dog that like saves, sits by the body of another. You see animals that exemplify human emotion and human morals.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have to understand that there are so many evolutionary paths in this universe, and the animals, like the dogs you are mentioning, they are on a different evolutionary path than we are, but they are in many respects as advanced as we are. You're right about animals trying to help other animals. I've seen that also on YouTube, and dogs are completely loyal and helpful.
You look in their eyes, and there's a consciousness that thinks and has feelings just like we do. That's with cats too. Even I mean, cats though. I look at cats and I'm like, if they were big enough, they'd eat you. But
highly intelligent animals. And Martinus actually says that some of the most advanced societies on this planet is not ours; it's that of the ants. And when you look at what the ants are up to, it's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing what an advanced society they live in, and
the way they coordinate and work together and.
Exactly. And I mean, how strong they are. An ant can carry 70 times its own weight. I mean, it's just amazing. But anyway, the point here is that, because we are eternal beings, there's enough time. There's no hurry. So we just have to understand that little by little, we unlearn through the dark karma that we have sown ourselves. We unlearn the animal tendencies. The killing principle is something that we will unlearn as we move forward. And as I said, for each life we live, we become more moral, we become more helpful, we become kinder. And I think it's so interesting to see, if you look at the world today, and now you have always had, but there are still like terrible wars like in Syria. And you see so many people who want to help. They cannot bear to watch this horrible thing going on, and they offer help. They go out and join humanitarian organizations and all this, and it is a clear indication in which direction we are moving. That people are becoming more and more compassionate. They cannot live with themselves if they don't do something to help others. But getting back to the animals and intelligent animals, and you were mentioning dogs and cats. Should we not also mention the cows and the pigs and all those
I knew
animals?
you were going to get to that.
Yeah, that we are eating. I mean, that is so.
I like my bacon, Elsa.
Yeah,
I'm
but
bad.
you
I know.
can't go on. You have to drop it. I mean, I've been a vegetarian for 18 years, and I only went vegan for a year ago, and that took me way too long. But I mean, once you start getting your head around it, and you see these lovely animals, the lovely little pigs, they are born into this world. They come, they are optimistic about it, and hey, I'm going to experience life, and then they're just kept in a pen until they're big enough, and then they're slaughtered and eaten. It is so inhumane.
I won't disagree with you on any of that. My problem is that I don't like a lot of vegetables. That's my problem.
No. And I know. And it is really just a question of conditioning your taste buds to a different kind of diet. Because I know I like bacon as well, and I like my fish and all that. But how can I put fish. It? Yeah, but my intellect and my feelings, my whole mentality told me, yeah, you like it, but you cannot go on, and you cannot live with yourself if you keep doing it. So I stopped doing it, and I've become much more healthy. And
I definitely see the logic behind not eating meat and how wasteful it is, and I get it.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to gear my life towards it, but man, it's hard enough to figure out every night what to feed a family of 4 half the time, and 2 kids that don't want to eat. I mean, I'll tell you what, my son's all for it. He's all for it. He says he doesn't like meat, and I'm not forcing him. But then at the same time, he says he doesn't like meat, but he wants his chicken nuggets from McDonald's. I go, but that's meat. Well, no, it's just chicken nuggets. I'm like, no, that's meat. It is meat. And so that's the one thing he doesn't want to give up. Yeah, but he doesn't like any of the other meat. And he goes, well, Grandma doesn't eat meat because my mom is a Buddhist, and she doesn't eat meat, and she's not gone totally vegan. I don't think so, but she's probably close to it, and. She might be now. I don't know. She's probably in the chat room.
But I mean, what you can actually do is just begin with 1 day a week, and start cutting down on it, because being vegetarian or vegan is not that difficult. It's really just a question of thinking along other lines. And if your mother is a Buddhist and a vegan, she can teach you. She can show you.
She knows how finicky of an eater I am. She's probably like, there is no hope for you. Talk about somebody that used to make me sit at the table and try to force me to eat beets, and I would not do it.
Right.
But I definitely see the logic, and when you talk about it and the karma of it, I definitely see us evolving out of it. Of course, we talk on the show quite a bit on our World Wide Web weird about the synthetic meats that they're making, and I don't know about that, but it does seem like we're moving away from it as a society. It seems like eventually we will reach that point.
Yeah, and there's a huge spiritual awakening streaming down onto the planet, and along with this comes a sort of getting away from the eating of meat. I mean, I grew up in Denmark, which is a huge meat producer, and everybody in Denmark likes their bacon and their frikadeller and their flæskesteg and I don't know what. But even there's been a huge, but just within the last 3 to 4 years, a huge awakening to vegetarianism and veganism. And suddenly you can get products that you couldn't get 5 years ago. So it's definitely happening, and it's happening everywhere. Now I live in Spain. It's also happening here, and in Europe in general. It is really becoming big. I don't know about the States, but I suppose that you would also be able to get a vegetarian meal in most big cities.
I mean, I got tons of people that are vegans and vegetarians, and it's definitely becoming more, easier to find stuff. But it's still hard, it's still hard to get that together. We've contemplated it here. There's time in my life where I didn't eat a lot of meat, and not now. I mean, usually it's the quick stop down to McDonald's for me every day at work. I mean, I'm bad. I'm real bad. So I don't know. I definitely see it, though, and I don't feel good about it. Trust me. I think about it a lot. And it's something I do want to move towards. It's just I have to – it's going to be a slow process. It's not going to be a quick process for me.
No, it is a slow process, and that's fine. I mean, there's time. We have all the time in the world. We're eternal beings. Yawn.
Well, you know, you say we're eternal beings, but it does seem like life's pretty short to learn something. It seems some people, like, we get through life and we start doing our stuff and boom, something happens. That's that karma, I guess. And just when you think you're like learning something, you're taken out of this life.
Yeah, but as I said, you take whatever you have learned, you take with you into your next life, because it is all stored in your consciousness and in your fate element. So nothing, not a simple little thing of what you have learned is lost. Nothing is lost. So you build.
I was gonna say, what is it though when you die though? I mean, is there still the heaven hell deal, or what is that?
Oh yeah, well yes, in hell, real hell is down here. Real hell is on the physical plane when there's war and concentration camps and persecution and killings and murders and all that. That is the real hell. I mean, if you look at the Second World War with all these people who were put into concentration camps and gassed to death, that is real hell. And war, bombs falling on your home and your house and your children being pulled away from you, that is real hell. There's no real hell on the spiritual plane. The spiritual plane is a wonderful place, a wonderful plane of thought. But it is important to also underline that when you pass over, you will, if you are lying there on your deathbed and fearing that you will now go to some kind of hell, then this thinking will take you to a wavelength that where there's hell-like experience to be had, but it's not real. It's all in your mind. It's all in your thoughts.
Doing it to yourself, basically.
Yes, basically, you're just thinking about it, and that is what you will experience. So I would very much recommend that when you're on your deathbed, you think about light and love and gratitude, and
people when they die, they say they see a light, or they see a tunnel,
Yeah.
And some have questioned, should you go to the light? Is it a trick? We brought that up on the show. I mean, is the light that's heaven? That's where you should go.
Definitely. I mean, when you see the tunnel, get into it ASAP, because that will take you to. When we are placed on in the spiritual world according to our own wavelength, because our energy field that I spoke about, which is identical to our consciousness, operates on a specific wavelength. And that wavelength is what determines where you will go on the spiritual plane, because the law of attraction decrees it, that light wavelengths attract light wavelengths. And that means that you will go to a place where you will meet a lot of like-minded beings, because they are on your wavelength, so you will meet them there. And you will meet your loved ones, people that you have known who have now passed over, and all that. But let us get back to the tunnel, because if let's say you are suddenly killed, and you don't have any knowledge about how this works, and you see this tunnel, and you will say, no, I'm not going there. Oh my God, what is all that? No, I'll stay here. And then you become stuck on the physical plane without a physical body. And guess what? Then you become a ghost. Now you're a ghost. And that is not a very fun thing to be. I tell you, that is a terrible, terrible thing to be, because you can't do anything on the physical plane without a physical body. So there you are, completely stuck. And what to do? You're bored. You're hanging out. You cannot move a lot, but you maybe hang out where in the house where you lived, and you don't know what to do. So you try to contact the people that are in there, And why are you contacting them? Because they're not the ghosts are not contacting the people who are living in the houses where they once lived in order to scare them or bother them. They're contacting them because they need help. They need help. They're stuck.
Some might not even realize they're dead, though.
No, they might not realize they're dead until after some time. First they think, oh, well, that light went away and that was great. So what can I do? And then they realize what a sad situation they're in. So what you can do when you experience a ghost, and I have been exposed to many ghosts, believe me, especially in hotels, old hotels old monasteries. Oh my God. Anyway, what you can do is start to pray immediately if you feel a ghost, and start praying for the guardian angels of that ghost to come and pick them up. That's the best thing you can do. And I have actually removed a ghost. We had a ghost in a bed we bought when we had a and
it was
rather. Yeah, it was simply attached to the bed, and it was a male ghost, no doubt about it, because all the men who were in that bed were so terribly annoyed by it. When they tried to sleep, they couldn't sleep because the ghost wanted them out so that the ghost could hang out with the woman. But and it was really weird. But anyway, through prayer, I managed to remove the ghost. Then it went. And that is really what they want. They want to move on to the spiritual plane so that they can get on with their process, with their evolution. Because as long as they're stuck on the physical plane, there's nothing they can do.
You know, the one thing that bothers me about that, though, Elsa, I'm a paranormal investigator, and I do a lot of residential hauntings. And I get a lot of children's voices, children that are stuck on the other side.
Yeah.
Now, I know there are entities that can mask themselves and possibly could be disguising themselves as children, but I do believe I've had experiences with children ghosts in my life. And I mean, heck, I even talked to my unborn dead sister, according to my mom and a psychic. And I remember her. I remember talking to this little girl in a white dress. I mean, there's children spirits on the other side. So that's, you know, so are they stuck? Just somehow they got confused, didn't go down the light? I mean, that's one of the things that bothers me the most about the idea of ghosts.
Yeah, because, I mean, they must be stuck somehow on the physical plane. Because if they had moved on to the spiritual plane, they would not be that easy to reach. So I think there's somewhere in an in-between state. And I mean, once you are on the other side, you will enter the spiritual world, and you will get on with your whatever you do up there. So it's a bit tricky, and I don't know what I can say other than as I said, I think they are stuck here, and I think that we can help them by interfering on their behalf to the spiritual level. And asking God to send their guardian angels to pick them up. That seems to work. That has worked for me.
And
I don't know.
In the scheme of things, you believe in angels too. You believe in other kinds of entities or forces.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, there are definitely angels, and sometimes they will materialize. They will materialize on the physical plane, which they can do if the highly evolved, all highly evolved people can materialize and dematerialize a physical body. So they can come in and help in critical situations. And there are many reports of people who have, suddenly there was somebody who was very, very kind, and suddenly he was there and he helped, and then suddenly he was gone, and where did he go? You know, stuff like that. So yes, I do believe that there are angels, and we all have guardian angels. Martinus says we all have 2 to 3 guardian angels that are sort of seeing to it that things happen on the physical plane for us according to our karma. So yes.
I've had many guests on here too that reference not only do you have guardian angels, but you have your ancestors and other people that might not even been related to you, but that were part of a similar, like if you're a musician, there might be a musician spirit that's with you to help you along with a certain task or with a certain thing you're doing.
Absolutely. Yes. If you have let's say a mother has died from young children, then she can become a guardian angel for them for a period of time. If she is advanced enough, then she can become that, and of course all sorts of other spirits can come and be helpful to you.
It seems like, I mean, you talk about the ghost get traps. It seems though that some spirits do make it to the other side, but they're able to visit us on this plane. Is that possible?
Yes, but well, I mean, no, I can't really answer that, because Martinus says that if you are, say that you want to contact, let's say you have lost your wife, and you want to contact her, then Martinus says that this happens very naturally during sleep, because when you sleep, you leave your physical body, because the physical body needs to do repair on a very fine nervous level. So you leave your physical body, and if you have a strong desire to connect with your loved one, you can actually connect when you are asleep, when your body is asleep and your spiritual body has passed on to the spiritual plane, and you can have a lovely long conversation. And then when you wake up, you will remember. You will have a wonderful.
I had that experience recently. I was just talking about it at the beginning of the show with my grandmother and my aunt. My aunt recently passed. My grandmother passed a few years ago from Alzheimer's. It was just recently her birthday too. But I had that experience. They were there with me. I felt them give me a hug. They both put their arms around me, and I felt them hug me. I mean, it just felt so real. And I don't really remember a lot of my dreams lately anymore. But that one, I woke up and remembered it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a wonderful thing that you feel this and you feel so comforted and uplifted from this experience. But I mean, apart from the ghosts, they are definitely here, and there's a lot of them, and they're everywhere. But
well, it's something that we're going to go to the commercial break here soon. But that's something I'd like to get in a little bit more too. Is the idea of what that can be an effect on humans? Is something that have always interested me. Is the things that most of us can't see, some people can, but how the spirit world is affecting us on an everyday basis. I mean, it's one thing in our past lives and our experience, but there's things outside forces that are affecting us. I've had my own, what I call shadow person experience, dark experience. There's things, entities out there, and ghosts. There's dark and light. Like you said, there's got to be both. Yeah. I've experienced both, and it's curious how these things could be affecting your lives. And maybe, I don't know, what Martinus had any insight into that as well.
Yes, he did.
All right, well, let's save that. We're going to go to commercial break here, guys. For people, like I said, listening on our radio network, we are a webcast. You can come back and watch, but we're really just talking, so you can stay and listen. And don't forget, guys, we have a Patreon. It's in the links for the show on Facebook and on our YouTube. If you're listening, you can find it on our Midwest Paranormal Presents Facebook page, or you can see it in the chat description there. Go to Patreon. Help us out. Without you, we wouldn't be able to do all this great streaming out to Facebook and YouTube at the same time. You help us do that. So check it out, donate on Patreon, and we will have exclusive content coming to there soon. And we are opening up the phone lines. After we come back from this commercial break, I'll give out the 2 phone lines again. You can call in and ask Elsa your questions, or tell us if you had a past life dream or an experience, or do you believe in it. Let us know. All right, guys, we'll be back after this short commercial break.
Transmission of unknown origin.
Transmission? Out here?
SOS.
Human.
Unknown.
Alien. Certificate X. Exclusive engagement at the Odeon Leicester Square. Now.
Any systematized transmission indicating a possible intelligent origin must be investigated.
I will hear it.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
Paranormal magazine is a new paranormal magazine based out of Denver, Colorado. Our goal isn't just to give you the best paranormal content out there, but to promote paranormal unity. We're doing this by giving everyone an opportunity to tell their stories and to share their experiences. For more information, follow us on Facebook at Paranation Magazine and soon, paranationmag.com.
Knights of the Road, here's your stallion. The car for freedom. The car for hot excitement. The car for a man who is alone against the elements.
The Waibatsu Thunder.
The pride is back. It's the power of a compact.
Looks small, but it's so big.
Fuel injected.
Inject me.
My Batsu Thunder. On the toll road of life, you have to pay to prove you can. Live the emotion of an individual.
Thunder.
The awesome power of nature distilled into one vehicle.
Wow.
Because after you get struck by lightning, there's thunder.
The Waibatsu Thunder.
When Alex Gardner is asleep, he has an extraordinary gift. The government wants it, the scientists want it, but to keep it may cost him his life. It might be better if Alex didn't sleep at all, but he cannot resist entering the dreamscape. Can you? See Dreamscape in the West End and all over London now. Certificate 15. It takes an extraordinary adventurer to enter the Dreamscape.
This is an APAC studio presentation.
Hey kids, tired of running away from home? Then getting lost and wrapping your big wheel around a cow? Then having no one to turn to other than that weirdo in the van with the dark tinted windows? Or his friend, your creepy Uncle John? Well, worry no more with new OnStar for Kids. Now you can run away in style with an OnStar for Kids kit installed in your big wheel, tricycle, or cute little smart car. Yes, just in time for Christmas, OnStar for Kids. So the next time you're on your way to Granny's house, or Weekend Dad's pathetic little bachelor pad, and you run over a homeless person in your toboggan, OnStar for Kids will clean up the mess, hide the hobo body, and get you there in time for nappies.
This is OnStar. Do you need someone to kiss your boo-boo?
This has been a presentation from Tim Morgan's APAC Studio. For more almost professional amateur comic studio content, visit the APAC YouTube channel. Search APAC 2002. That's APAC 2002 on YouTube.
Edgar Allan Poe wrote Spirits of the Dead with a pen dipped in warm blood. You will see the ultimate in terror with this important all-star cast. Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda in Edgar Allan Poe's Spirits of the Dead. Only Poe's demented genius could bring to the screen such horror and evil. Spirits of the Dead stars Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda. Directed by three masters of the cinema, Federico Fellini, Louis Malle, and Roger Vadim. Spirits of the Dead is an adventure in terror beyond your wildest nightmares. Spirits of the Dead in color is rated R.
Seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I watched sea beams glitter in the dark near the 10-house gate. All those moments will be lost in time. Like tears in rain. Time to die.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, we're talking to Elsa Byskov. She is the author of Death is an Illusion, and we're talking a lot about reincarnation. I do want to get into this next part about how the spiritual world does affect us on our daily lives. The idea of hungry ghosts is an idea that's always kind of haunted me, that the idea of ghosts are around you, using your addictions to feed off the things that they loved in life. I've always felt that when I've always talked about it on the show. Bars kind of always creep me out, because I always felt like there's other entities there that are getting a kick off of people drinking. Those are the ideas that I want to see what the philosopher Martinus had an idea of, because I think the spiritual world is interacting with us in so many ways on an everyday level, just like our reincarnation is affecting us. Our past lives make us who we are, and we don't even realize it. So many of these deep levels we don't think about every day. That's what we're getting into. And you can call in tonight and tell us about your experiences in with the reincarnation or spirits. The phone number is 219-230-4444 or Skype ID 00JBland00. The other two phone lines, I'm not going to even mention them because don't call in on them. They're down tonight. We just got the two phone lines, but call in. Just hang in there. You'll hear us, but we won't hear you until I call you. When I call you, then you'll be ready. Just ask your question. And if you've had a past life dream, please call in. I've had two of mine, and I've talked about them to extent on this show, but I'd love to know what other people's experiences are with this, because I really think these things do come up in our dreams. But let's get back to our guest. You still there with us, Elsa?
I'm absolutely here. Yes.
So,
I would like. Yeah, sorry. What?
Well, no, go ahead.
It was you mentioned this thing about ghosts that would possess people,
yes.
And I would like to go into that because that is actually something Martinus also mentions, that when you have, let's say you have a spirit that has passed over and didn't get into the tunnel, and now he's stuck on the physical plane, and that spirit was an addict to alcohol. Right. When he was alive.
Exactly.
And this addiction to these physical things like alcohol can actually be so strong that he will ignore the light, and he doesn't want to go there because he knows once he get over to the other side, there will be no alcohol.
Yeah, the party's over.
And no drugs. Party over. So he stays here and he's stuck on the physical plane. And then what does he do? He tries to move on to places where there will be drinking going on. So he goes into cheap bars or like down at the harbor, and I don't know, cheap bars. And there he will hang around. And what's he hanging around for? He's hanging around because he's hanging around in order to usurp a drinker. And what happens when we drink? Let's say there's a guy standing there, and he's probably a regular. He's standing there, and he's getting a good deal of whiskey or whatever it is under his vest. And when we drink a lot of alcohol, our aura starts to weaken. The alcohol is also like it's has some sort of spiritual substance in it that can actually weaken our aura. And once the aura is weak, it becomes possible for a discarnate being to jump in and usurp our body. So that is why drinking is absolutely not very good for you, because it does weaken your aura. Okay, so we have this discarnate being, and we have the drinker, and now the drinker has drunk enough to the aura to become weakened. So the discarnate being jumps in and disposes for some time the spirit of the person to the body belongs to. So now the spirit, the discarnate being, is in charge, and he wants more drink. So he stands at the bar and he looks into the pocket. Is there more money? And then he will spend all the money that was maybe meant for the wife and kids. You know, you've got these stories from Ireland, especially terrible stories.
Oh, I got a lot of Irish in me. I know how the drinking goes on my side of the family with that. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And he doesn't care about the children and the wife sitting at home waiting for the waiters to arrive. So he will spend it all, and at the point when the body becomes so drunk that it sort of faints and is lying there on the floor, then the discarnate being moves out again, because now there's no more fun to be had. But I think this is much more common that many people realize. I remember, I remember parties when I was young, that when we were at university, and you know what it's like. We were we were having fun and a good time. And I remember sometimes suddenly one of my friends completely changed personality.
Exactly.
And it was so strange to witness.
I've seen it.
And I didn't understand it at the time, but now I do understand that body had simply become usurped by a spirit that wanted to be part of this party. So it really, really happens a lot. And also, I mean, if the point here is that your aura, the role of the aura is not well understood, and it plays a much bigger role than many people realize. Because what you should really, really concentrate on is having a very strong and impenetrable aura, and that you can do by, you know, taking interest in spiritual stuff, being a good person, not abusing alcohol or anything. And I mean, but once your aura is down, you can become usurped by a whole number of spirits. There was one investigation that found that a woman was possessed by 15 other spirits. So it's really scary to think about. So keep your aura intact.
I like I said, we talk about it's a subject comes up on this show a lot, is about how the spirit world interacts with us every day and how it affects people. And I mean, I had an experience where I walked in this house. My wife didn't tell me that the person who owned it was having experiences because she wanted to see if I would know, because I usually do. And I walked in there, and the first thing that gave me a clue that the place was haunted is that I'm not a drinker, but I looked at the guy that lived there. He had all these bottles of empty alcohol bottles that he'd like strewn up like as like decoration. And I was like, man, I want to drink. I'm like, well, that's odd. That's not me. And I felt that like overwhelmingly wanted to drink. And I turned to my wife and go, yeah, there's something here. And I even later held a picture of the person that had lived there before and knew his name, knew his last name, had this really intense psychic experience, wasn't trying it, and it happened. I knew his first and last name. I knew he had been an alcoholic. And I knew all these things without just it all came to me. And it all started with that want of alcohol. It's like that's how his presence let me know that he was there, was through that. Exactly.
And I mean, I've been in pubs and in places where you can feel them. You can, if you take a photograph, you are probably also many times taking a photograph and you can see a big fat orb. And that is, they can be photographed in that way, not that you can see the actual person, but you can see the spirit, which is, of course, a field of energy. So it's no wonder that it can actually be photographed. So yes, this goes on a lot.
And I feel that way at bars. When I'm at bars, I tell people I'm not a psychic, but I have I can feel things, and I've had a lot of weird stuff since I was a kid. But I've always felt that way, that I'm being watched at a bar. I've seen the personality changes of people, drinking at a bar and that. And then I had one person I knew in high school when he would drink. I swear it's like, dude, your personality changes to a homeless person, like a crazy homeless person. Like you're even the look in your eye, you're a different person, and you're a jerk.
Precisely. It's a different spirit in there. So that would be reflected in the eyes. Yeah, that is absolutely true. That certainly does happen. So stay away from those places, I would say. And
but you also wonder how, like, you had a father or grandfather was an alcoholic. They pass away, and they go, I still want to drink. I'm gonna go to my grandson. I'm gonna get him to go get a drink. I need a drink. You wonder if it passes down to the families.
Yeah. No, I actually don't think so.
No.
Because the grandfather or the father would also, once they have passed over to the other side, if they're stuck, but they will also feel protective about their grandson or their son.
You would hope, but there's not all grandfathers are good people.
No, you're right.
You know,
Yeah,
there
no,
are
you're
bad
absolutely
people,
right.
and
That
it
would
would
probably happen.
the reason I say that, the reason I bring it up is I can think of a few instances of people I know who had no alcohol problems, and then a family member passed, and of course, yeah, death, whatever, but that family member had problems, and then suddenly they start drinking. I've seen that. That's what made me think about that mechanism and if that's a possibility.
Yeah, that it could be that they are trying to move into the spirit of that person, and some of the tendencies from the discarnate being could then maybe spill over and suddenly start affecting that person that normally doesn't drink. I cannot exclude that. No.
Yeah, I mean, because not everybody's a good person. You know, some people don't care about their grandchildren. They don't care about their kids. You know, all they care about is the drink, and that it's taking over everything of their lives.
Yeah, that's true. It is true.
And not just drinking. There's other things like gambling, and you know, I mean, there's a lot of vices in this world. You know, but it's you know, but is that the point though? Is to get us to not want the material things as much, to be able to live here without wanting these things.
Yeah, exactly. And it, as I said, it's a process of learning. And they may not have come that very far in that process, but they are moving forward as everybody else is. And it may take time and it may seem very painful, but it is definitely happening. Whichever way we look upon it, it is happening. And we are all moving towards becoming more perfect human beings. And the world at the moment is, of course, full of very many imperfect humans.
Well, yeah, we can say that. You know, some people would argue with you, Elsa. I have to bring this up. Some people would argue with you and say the world's not becoming more moral. The world's becoming less moral. And I would side with you because I think there's a lot more. I do believe, you know, I mean, I hate to be the America guy, but I mean, democracy itself to me is a movement of moralism.
Yeah, but we must also understand that this thing that I'm talking about, it comes up from the grassroots. It's not something that the government will tell us, or the church.
I'm not a government. Trust me, I'm not talking about the government. I'm talking about the movement of idea of freedom.
I mean, and this whole thing that I'm talking about, this advancement in towards more humanitarianism, is coming from the grassroots. As we see, there's a lot of grassroots movement now talking about we have to save the planet and we have to stop having all this livestock because it depletes the resources of the planet. And all this is coming up from the grassroots, especially from the younger generation. So I think there's a lot of optimism there and a lot of hope because they won't put up with it. So yeah, we
got a long ways to go. We still got a long ways to go.
But I mean, it's all good.
And, you know, I do think the world has you know, as much as our news media likes to convince us otherwise, I do believe the world has evolved quite a bit. If you go back and look at history and how man has treated each other, we've definitely come a long way. We've come a long way. We shouldn't be patting ourselves on the back yet, but we've come a long way.
Yeah, we have come a long way, and it may not be that much in the news, but because it is not headline stuff, because people want to see all the shit is more sells more papers. But if you read the book of the Swede called Factfulness, his name is Hans something. He points out with facts that he have picked up from all the statistics in the world how much better the world is today than it was just 50 years ago. And he's put together all the facts. So, I mean, if we look at it from a different angle than the mainstream media, because they are also, I mean, how far out are many of those? But there is a lot of good things going on, so there's absolutely no reason to despair. On the contrary.
But that's what I mean. It's like our main. We did a whole show on this topic once about that we are the doomsday generation. You know that that the media, and I mean I can just think about all my life as a kid. Stuff the media is just always looking at the bad and even gearing us to fear the end of the world. You know, I think of all the Nostradamus specials and. like I said, like I'm always waiting for the hammer to come down. I feel like it's been ingrained in me from the media and society to
precisely
to always fear the worst is going to happen. I am a constant worry ward. So, I feel like I've been geared by the media. I don't trust the media anymore because I know they're trying to always manipulate us with fear. They always go as a parent. I'm a parent, man. That's the worst one. They like the newest parent scare, like the Momo thing right now they got going. Like, watch out for Momo. It's going to get your children through the internet.
Jesus. Yeah, terrible. No, the media are not to be trusted. And that is the good thing about the Martinus world picture, because it's a deeply optimistic worldview, an absolutely deeply optimistic worldview. And that is, I mean, I cannot underline this enough, that we are not going, there's no doomsday ahead of us. There's only progress and more prosperity for everybody. But of course, we have to go through the dark times first. But we are emerging from this darkness. And
do you
of
think
course,
there's going to be a World War III? I mean, do we need a karma cycle to play that out?
I think that Martinus actually did mention that there would be a World War III. But I have also heard that there are very strong spiritual forces at work trying to avoid it. And I mean, we still have, of course, all those who sow war, they will have to reap it. I mean, and as long as war is still being sown, the people who sow it will also reap it. But mind you, and here's an important point, that those who carry peace in their hearts will be protected by their karma, by their aura, from being exposed to this. Of course, it might affect the world economy and stuff like that. But if you carry peace in your heart and you wouldn't kill anybody, including animals and bacon, then you are protected.
I'm not.
You're protected by your karma. So you have nothing to worry about. So when you get your act together and you start participating in all types of killing, you are really safe. You're safe in your.
I always wanted to have, like, I'm the worry ward, but the optimistic view for humanity. So I was a big Star Trek fan as a kid, because they had this view of that, one, there was a hopeful future, but the view that that humanity would move beyond the acquisition of wealth. I know people are like Green New Deal and socialism. I'm definitely not a socialist, trust me, people. But the idea was that we would move beyond the idea of just accumulating wealth and look to pursue ourselves to be better human beings and to evolve ourselves. And I always thought that was one of the best optimistic shows out there with that idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, greed. I mean, and we see so much greed today. And I think like what some of these big corporations are doing, they're trying to rule the world through their enormous money power, like big pharma. It's really, really scary.
Oh yeah.
But what we have to understand is that if you are that greedy and you are only thinking of yourself, and you have no consideration for others, only me, and money, and power to me. And guess what? When these people reincarnate, what do you think they're going to experience?
I hope they work a minimum wage job for nothing.
No, not even that.
Struggle to pay their bills.
They're going to be in the gutter begging. I mean, so many people have no idea about what kind of karma they are sowing, because, and this is one of the main points that I always cry out about, the one life theory, it so sucks, because when people believe in the one life theory, they think that they can do whatever, be as egoistic.
It's only this life I got to live, so I might as well be a jerk.
Yeah, precisely. I want to be a jerk, and I want to be a rich jerk.
Yep.
And then when I die, that's it. And I will never have to.
Who cares? There's only this life. If that's all I got to live, might as well be a jerk.
Yeah.
We do got
to.
Go ahead. Sorry.
They don't realize that there's a cosmic responsibility. There's the cosmic law of karma that will see to it that they will receive exactly the same back from the universe as they put in there. And I mean, this should have a sobering effect on so many people. But as long as they don't realize it, I don't know. But
there's no
Martinus
help for them.
No, well, Martinus says that getting to grips with the law of karma is the biggest challenge facing humankind at the moment. Because once you realize that you are not just this body and you don't only live once, and that whatever you sow will come back to you in a later life, then that should make you think about what you sow. And that is, I mean, I cannot recommend enough to think about what you sow every day. What do? Do you shout at people? Are you angry? Are you pissed off? Or are you kind and understanding? And do you sow universal love and kindness and help? I mean, think about it.
Well, we got somebody on the phone line here. We got Zach on the phone. How you doing tonight, Zach?
I'm doing pretty good, brother. How about yourself?
Doing good. Thanks for calling in. You have a question for the guest?
I actually have two questions, and then I'm going to bring up the dream.
Oh, yes, definitely.
All right, Elsie, it's very nice to meet you.
And you, Zach.
My first
Hi.
question, it goes back to this belief that I've had for quite a while now with reincarnation, because I do fully believe in it 100%, is that I believe that in some aspect, every person that you interact with, whether it's minimal or it lasts a lifetime, or any action that you do in some ways has happened previously in one or multiple past lives. Do you agree with that belief? Why or why not?
I do agree with the idea that many of the people that we have in our life today are people that we have known previously. And you know that when you see somebody who is new to you in this incarnation, and you suddenly realize you are so much on wavelength, and you have the same attitude to so many things, and you believe the same, and you will actually, then that it is a clear indication that you have known each other in a former life. But there will also be new people in your life, new people that are sent to you to teach you new lessons that you need to learn. Because we have to understand that every day we're exposed to these lessons, that our aura is like a magnet that attracts exactly the lessons that we most need to learn. So I agree that there will be old people that we have known before, but there will also be new people, new spirits or people in our life. Does that answer your question?
Okay. Yep. Yes, ma'am. It does. It answers my question. I was just going on to my second question.
Okay.
So my second question, it goes back to spirits thriving off of something to be able to relive an experience, like drinking, for example, like what you mentioned before.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So my question to you is, though, what are some characteristics that someone can pick up when there's a spirit that is using them as a vessel to get some sort of satisfaction, like drinking?
Yeah, I think I mentioned that once the aura gets debilitated, and that's the whole point, because if you have a very strong aura, no other spirit can come in and usurp it. But if your aura is down through drinking, for instance, but also through drugs and pills like medicine, the aura can become debilitated. And once the aura becomes debilitated, you can envision it as suddenly it has holes in it, and then through one of these holes, the spirit can come in. That's how it works. It's the aura that decides this.
I think what Zach was getting at is, what are some of the signs, though, that that's what's happening to somebody?
The signs?
Yeah, what would be some clues that's what is actually involved with happening to somebody?
That the aura is down?
Yeah.
Well, some people can actually see auras, and not most people can't. But if you can't see the aura, I don't think you can. Okay, yeah. Then you probably can't see it. But I think you can also probably, once the person starts to have signs of being drunk and starts not being like speaking strangely and stuff like that, that is a clear sign that now the aura is down. And I mean, even if you can't see auras, you can look at the behavior of that person. And once it starts to become a blurry behavior, I would call it, then that would probably be a sign that now that person is in danger.
Okay. Awesome. And then, Elsie, I'm also going to tell you about a dream that I had a long while ago, and I've mentioned this before over on the show. So I did have a dream once where I was in a dark place, and I didn't know where I was at, but I felt like I had a gun pointed to the back of my head. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, I said, "Make it quick." I hear the gunshot go off, and I fall over to the ground. I can't move. But I feel someone pouring lighter fluid on me, or gasoline, and then setting me on fire. Mm-hmm. And I remember feeling the pain just of my whole body just getting burned.
Yeah.
And I mentioned this over to Jason.
And
I would definitely.
What's funny about it is I made a short film where basically the scene of Zach's death is what the whole like short film revolves around. Before I ever knew Zach, I made that in high school, so I thought it was really creepy. He brought that up. I'm like, I hope I wasn't involved in his death in a past life.
Oh, right. I would definitely call that a past life recall, and that could be how you died in your last incarnation, because it's a very violent thing like this, like being shot from behind and seeing your body on fire, which are things that could very well spill over into your memory. And I think that it's things like that. I also have a recurring dream of me and my mother fleeing through some sewers, and then suddenly we were shot and there was a light. So I've had that for many times, and I'm pretty sure that was probably how I died in my last incarnation, fleeing through some sewers, probably in Warsaw or somewhere during the Second World War. So anyway, but this thing about, and it's interesting what you mentioned about your body being set on fire, because when you have only just left your physical body, you will still be able to feel some of the things that are going on with that body.
Oh, that's
like
creepy.
You would, yeah, and that is why Martinus very, very much discourages to have your body cremated.
It's funny you bring that up, Elsa, because we had a guest on, Joyce Isaacson, who communicates with the spirit on the other side, and that was one of the points of the spirit was like, you don't want to be cremated.
Exactly. And there are various reasons for this. One reason is that you will still, for a few days, you will still be able to sense, even though you have left the physical body, you will still be able to sense what's going on in it. And believe me, it's no fun to be able to sense that the whole body is being burned. It's absolutely horrendous. The other reason is that, and Martinus is very adamant about this, that we think of our body as stuff, as material, but it is really, our body consists of living beings, small living beings, cells and atoms and organs and molecules. And those little beings, they also have a consciousness, and we must respect them as much as we respect all other forms of life. And when we respect other forms of life, we do not just leave them to be burned, because they will experience a horrible death. Imagine that we took the whole world and put it in a casket and put it and set it all on fire. Imagine the kind of death we would all experience. It's horrible. Imagine if the whole world was on fire. So what we have to understand is that our body is full of billions and billions of living beings that should also be respected. So the best way to respect those is to let them die their natural death. You know, the average lifespan of a cell is about 3 months. So we should just simply be buried in the ground or wherever, but so that we give our cells and all the life in it time to reach its natural time of death. And then it will move on and reincarnate in a different body. So that is definitely something that should be avoided. Cremation, no.
Yeah, but your second guess in the last 2 weeks to bring up not to get cremated. So I'm taking that to heart because I used to think that. Go ahead, Rob. Hold on one second, Rob. Hold on a second, Rob. Thank you, Zach, for calling in.
Thank you, Zach.
Hey, no problem, brother. And thank you so much, Elsie, for answering my questions. I greatly appreciate it, and I love hearing everything that you're saying. Cannot wait to hear more.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Zach.
Great.
All right. Sorry. Go ahead, Rob.
Have a good night.
You too,
Thank
Zach.
you.
Yeah, my question about that is like Jason brought up, our last guest was advising against cremation and stuff as well, for basically the same reasons. But in today's age and society and everything, when a person dies, they don't just simply get buried in the ground. They go to a funeral home, whatever, and have all their blood drained, everything else taken out and bombed.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
What would be the difference of being burnt up or having all your body fluids taken out, being chemicals pumped inside you?
That's a good question.
Which one's worse?
Do you mean being like balsamated, or what do you mean?
Embalmed, basically. What they do, the whole process here, at least in the United States, is they take all your body fluids out and they put chemicals in you and turn you into a stuffed doll, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the latter is probably better. Then what do they do with the body after they've taken all the fluids out? What do they do with it?
Put it in a casket and bury it in the ground.
But why do they take the fluids out?
I know probably because at the time is not to have body fluids leaking into the ground, I'm guessing. I don't know. I'm not a mortuary person.
Okay, but it's still better than being burned because
obviously.
they might take some of you. Of course, they will take a good deal of your cells out, like your blood cells and your lymphatic cells, but they will still leave the majority of the cells in your body.
Hey, they pour those down the drain anyways, so they're still going back to the earth.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They do pour them down a drain.
They will still. Yeah, but then they put with the casket. They would still leave the majority of the cells in your body to be able to live their natural lifespan, and then leave and reincarnate in a different place. It will still be preferable to being cremated.
Well, now they got new things where you can be, buried under, like basically with a tree. Like a tree grows out.
I've seen that.
Those ideas sound kind of cool to me. They have natural places where you can be buried naturally. No embalming, and you're just buried in the ground, no casket. They have those things. It seems like it's getting more popular. We got another phone call on the line here. We got Laura Lee on the phone. How you doing tonight, Laura Lee?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
Doing good. Thanks for calling in.
Well, thanks for taking my call, and hi, Elsa. Thank you for taking my call as well. I have a question. I've been doing a lot of research on this. I'm besides being a registered nurse, I'm also a psychic medium. But I've met people. I've always had an interest with near-death experiences. But what I've been seeing recently is very interesting documented cases of children who are born with the memories of their previous life. Right. They end up, a lot of these kids, having a birthmark, which was the cause of their previous death, and then remembering the families from before. I was just wondering what your experiences are. Have you met anybody like this, or?
Oh, yes, absolutely. No, I can't say I've met them, but I have read Ian Stevenson's book, Where Reincarnation and Biology Intersect. And in that book, he presents, I think, about 20 cases or maybe more of birthmarks that coincide with the memories the children had and the way they died. It's a highly, highly interesting work.
Well, he did the definitive work on reincarnation. Like he studied
He did.
for a long time.
He started it for his whole life, and he was a major authority on the theme. So yes, absolutely, it certainly happens that scars and birthmarks, and now scars and wounds. Let's say that you pass over from those scars and wounds, and your body hasn't had time to heal them. Then they will be visible on your next body. That is quite clear. Martinus very clearly states that if they haven't had time to heal, then they will be visible as birthmarks or funny scars on your next body because it hasn't had time to heal. So
yeah, I've seen a lot of evidence of that.
What's really
no doubt that happens.
Oh, sorry. What's really interesting, and I've never told anybody this, when my first son was born, he had the strangest almost scar right in between his clavicles or his collarbones. He's now almost 24, but he's never talked about a previous life before. So that's interesting you mentioned scars. I guess what I've been fascinated with, there's at least one documented case of a child that, remember, who murdered them, I think it was in India, he was able to show where the murder weapon was that killed them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was Ravi Shankar. He's a famous case that he knew who had killed him. It's such a funny case. That's also one of Ian Stevenson's, actually.
Yes.
And the funny thing is that many children will remember past lives, especially if their past life ended in a very violent way. But ask any 3-year-old, who were you when you were big? And they will be more than happy to tell you. I've tried it with my grandchildren, and until they reach the age of 4 and 5, they will start to forget. But when they start to talk, until they're 4, you can get a lot of interesting information out of them, and they are happy. They are so happy to answer you because they are happy to be recognized as a mature spiritual being and not just as a child. How boring is that, to be looked upon as somebody who doesn't know anything when you come in to this incarnation with all the knowledge that you have gathered in former incarnations.
Well, I was going to say, Jason, I know why you're laughing. You've shared some of the information of memories that one of your kids remembers. That's quite young, right?
Yeah, and I actually had a conversation last night with my 3-year-old that was along those same lines. I'll tell you in a sec, but thank you, Laura Lee, for calling in.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for taking my call. You guys have a great night.
You too. No, I asked my son Liam last night. He's 3 years old because I knew we were doing the show, and I brought it up again because I've read. We had Gordon Curley Smith on. He has a great book about penguins. It's but it's another egg, another life is the name of the series of the books for kids about using penguins as a way to relate to reincarnation. These penguins that die and then come back, and I asked my 3-year-old last night, I'm like, do you remember who you were before you were leaving? Do you remember? He goes, yeah, I do, Daddy. I'm like, oh, really? Well, who were you? He goes, I was Peter. Yeah. He goes, I was Peter. I go, Peter? I'm like, oh, well, Peter who? Peter Parker. He's Spider-Man. So, I mean, but my 7-year-old, when he was that age, he had woke up from a really bad dream. And he says, we were somebody else. You were there, Mommy, Daddy, but you were somebody else. And we were in a car. Yeah. And it went over a cliff, over a hill, I think. I didn't say cliff, but I think he said went over a hill and it crashed and we all died. And I'm like, okay. Was it a dream? I don't know. But that's the only time I had anything with one of my kids. Like I said, Liam, I tried to see if I could get that on. He basically believes he was Spider-Man in a past life. But
yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? Yeah, they know and they're happy to talk about it. Absolutely.
But I'm open in this household. So, I raise my children. My son has questions about reincarnation all the time, and one of the best ways I could relate it to him is, I don't know if you're familiar with the show Doctor Who.
No, but is that in America?
It's actually in England. It's a British show. It's been around since 1963.
Okay.
But in that, it's an alien, time traveling alien. But when he dies, he is reborn as a totally new looking person. Could have a total different personality that likes different things than the other one did, but he has all the memories of the other one. And that's what I explained to my son. It's like, it's something like that. You know, it's like you could be a totally different person, but you carry all that information inside of you from all the other.
Let me just correct you here, Jason. You are not a totally different person. You are exactly the same person. And that's the whole point, because everything that defines who you are is sitting in the energy field of your aura and your consciousness. And that's what you take with you. So you will also physically look more or less the same from life to life.
You really, so you do carry on the same kind of physical traits, because you see these pictures. People put up pictures of like celebrities and ancient pictures.
Precisely.
And they look just like them, you know, and you wonder, is that their past life?
Yeah, precisely. So I think this is a mistake that many people think that they will be somebody else. No, they will be the same person in a different body, and I think that's important to underline.
Well, one of my experiences, though, Elsa, I was somebody completely. Both of my dreams I felt were so intense. I felt were past life. I was totally different. I mean, one, I was a little black girl, and another one, I was. I believe Vietnamese. I believe that's where I was. I believe I was Asian of some kind. And both of them were very intense dreams. I mean, both of them I died, and not in a nice way either. Like the little black girl, I was beaten to death. But it was so intense. It was so emotional. And so in my opinion, I mean, I feel like, you know, if past lives are real, if those were past lives, I was different. I mean, maybe I'm down to the core the same person, but I was definitely physically different.
Of course, you were physically different, and I mean, we can reincarnate. I mean, I can become a black person or an Asian person in my next life. It all depends on what I need to learn. And but the core of who we are is the same. And I'm not talking about the physical. The physical, we will also take traits that will be the same from one life to the other. But of course, the color of our skin can change and other outward things. But basically, our eye is the same. It's definitely the same.
You see it in the eyes.
No, not in the eye. The what I call eye. You know,
like the third eye.
No. The me. The me.
Oh, just the me. The inner soul of the person.
Yes, yes. The core of your being, which is what I call just the I. When I say I am, the I is the same.
No, it makes sense to me. You know, but some people might carry on their actual physical traits, though, too, is what you're saying, that they might look a lot like the same person. It makes you wonder. It makes you wonder, you know, how much of that, like when you see, because there's those classic pictures of celebrities and their doppelgangers from the past, and you wonder. It makes you wonder.
Yeah.
If they carry that on.
One
of the things too, you know, on a karmic cycle, we were talking earlier. I wanted to get back to this. You're talking about war, you know, and you know, possibility of World War III. Is there a karmic cycle to war too? Because I've heard, you know, that some people believed like the soldiers that died in World War I were the same soldiers that came back reborn in their early 20s, fought in World War II, and died. Like it was a karmic cycle for the German soldiers. Like they said, Germany would rise from these reborn souls from the First War.
Let me explain that. Martinus says that a soldier that dies in war will typically reincarnate after 7 years. That's just a number, he says, because they die young and they want to get on with their experience and their life, so they reincarnate pretty quickly. And because unlearning to like war will take you, it might take you more than one war to unlearn this. And you might still think that, I'm going to be a war hero, so I'm going to go into the next war. So yes, it could very well be that young men that died in the First World War would also participate in the Second World War. But then let us say, because this is something that I have thought about, that let us say that those who died during the Second World War, they again reincarnate quickly. And let's say after 7 years, they will then be born around 1950. And now they have had enough of war, because I remember I was born in 1950. And I remember the make love not war. Do you remember the hippies?
Yeah,
they were
the hippie movement.
Streaming down. They were streaming down the streets with these large banners, "Make love not war." They were so against war. And in my mind, in my way of looking upon that, that was all those reincarnated soldiers from the Second, who had enough. And this is it. We are not going into another war. And that is what happens. So you see that wars will eventually... the wars will make pacifists out of people, because once you have participated in 5, 6, 7 wars and you have suffered a lot on the battlefield, and you have been lying there bleeding and freezing and hearing the shouts for help from the other soldiers, and you will be so fed up with it. Imagine all those people who were made all those soldiers who were made pacifists in Stalingrad. It was the most horrendous, horrible battle, of the whole Second World War, and on both sides. And when these soldiers are reborn, I tell you, they will not go into another uniform. That is for sure. So I'm sure that it. I mean, Martinus clearly says this: war creates pacifists. It's just a question of how many wars you have to be in, and then you will become a pacifist, because the sufferings that you go through you will take with you, not as an active memory into your next life, but as a knowing that you cannot do it.
That's definitely something I know. I had, when I was 18, I took the ASVAB and scored really high on it. I had every kind of military recruiter calling my house trying to get me to sign up and join, and I had no interest. I really had no interest. I did not want to. I had no interest in being a soldier or fighting in any war, and I don't trust governments for one. So. Exactly. So I mean, I definitely see it. When you talk about how it shapes your lives, I'll tell you one of the other past life dream, when I believe I was a Buddhist monk, and in that dream, what I remember of it, I knew I had caught the master of the temple. I don't know who he would be or whatever, but the person that we all looked to in the temple, using opium, and I turned him in the dream to the government, and I remember they had rifles, and they show up at the temple and just start shooting the monks. And I remember running for my life in the jungle, and stopping when I get caught, and that's where it ends. But all my life, I've always been mistrust of the government and of religion. Like, it's ingrained in me. It's ingrained in my soul. You know what I'm saying? It is who I am from everything I've always been as a little kid. I remember them coming to my little neighborhood. It was probably Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Like, oh, these kids, come to our little tent thing where we're going to teach you about Jesus Christ. And they had candy and food and all this stuff. And I remember walking up and getting my food, and they're like, well, you're supposed to sit down and hear about Jesus first. And I'm like, I'll just take my food, thanks. And left. Like, I've always been a little snot about religion. And I've been exactly the same, Jason. I couldn't stand it. Simply. Yeah. Full stop. It's ingrained in me, and it still is. Yeah. And that dream, when I had it in my early 20s, when I had that dream and I thought about it, I'm like, and I felt, the moment I woke up from it, I felt it was a past life vision. And I've always been interested in Eastern religions and in Buddhism. I'm not a Buddhist, but I'm a Gnostic, but I've always been interested in it. My mom's a Buddhist. I'm just totally fascinated. It explained a lot, but it really explained is my ingrained, just sheer dislike for religion and government. Precisely. And you know what, Jason, what it really shows is that you have been through a lot in your former lives, and you have reaped a lot of knowledge and wisdom. And that is what has brought you to this place where you are today, and you are able to have this kind of talk show, because it is so interesting that to start to open up this whole talk instead of just putting it under a lid. I really appreciate it, and it's clear to me that you are well advanced and you're also a pacifist. Now you just need to learn to not eat meat. That's going to be a hard one. It really is going to be a hard one, Elsa. But I don't disagree with you on the premise of it. I really don't. I totally agree with you. It's just getting there for me. It's a really hard one, because, I mean, there was a time where I didn't eat hardly any meat, and maybe wasn't out of some moral choice, more like I spent my groceries on like noodles because that's all I could afford when I moved out when I was 20. But man, I was like 125 pounds when I didn't eat meat. I was awful. My health was awful. So I don't want to ever get back to that again. So I definitely got to refigure it out. But it is something I do think deeply about that. I've seen what it looks like in the slaughterhouses. I've seen the videos. I've seen animals slaughtered actually in front of me. You know, I'm not comfortable with it. It's not something I like. I definitely feel, you know, empathy for those poor animals. But at the same time, I'll sit there and eat that bacon cheeseburger and go, you know, I don't know.
It's a journey. It is a journey, and as I said, there's no hurry. So
yeah, I mean, but you know, I don't want to pay for it so bad. I mean, the karmic cycle of that, it just means I get stuck here doing it more and more. Is the ultimate purpose of all of this? That's what we should get down to the question of, is to stop reincarnating here and move on to something else?
Yes, the ultimate meaning of life is to experience it, and it sounds like a very sort of not very deep meaning, but it's because we are small parts of God's body and also of God's consciousness, and that means that we're alive in the conscious universe. Because obviously God has a consciousness just like everybody else has. But God has no outer world. God is sort of living in majestic loneliness up there. And he can only experience life through us, his micro beings. And for that reason, we have to experience life, and we have to experience all different aspects of life, the good and the bad, the ugly and the pretty. Everything we have to experience, because in that way God also experiences life. So at the really big cosmic level, the meaning of life is to experience it. But at this point in time where we are now, sort of exiting the animal kingdom and moving towards the real human kingdom, the meaning of our lives now is to unlearn the egoism and the greed and the lust to kill and the love for power and all that, and move towards becoming more altruistic and all-loving beings. And then once we have reached that point and we have become real human beings, and that is when I'm talking about a real human being, that would be somebody like Jesus. He had advanced so much that he was a real human being.
He was able to materialize after death.
Yeah, he was. And that's what real human beings can do. They can materialize and dematerialize physical matter. So could Martinus. He just didn't do it a lot because he had a bigger mission. His mission was to reveal his world picture, which of course he did. But then you stop reincarnating for a very, very long time, and you will live in the spiritual worlds. And I explain this in my book, Death is an Illusion, and also in my latest book, Reincarnation in a Nutshell. There's a visual of this journey, and that is, of course, a symbol that Martinus has made. But then we stay on the spiritual plane for very, very, very long time, and we have a fantastic time, and there are different realms in the spiritual world that we will live in. But then at a certain point in time, again, we need a contrast to all this light of the spiritual world, and then we will start a new cycle, and we will again start in mineral matter and move on to plant and to animal and so on, but on a different level. So that is really
maybe a different planet.
Yeah, on a different planet, absolutely. We don't always belong to the same planet. We reincarnate here for a certain amount of reincarnations, and then we will sort of belong to the Earth. But then at a certain point, when our level of evolution is more advanced than that of the Earth is also a living being, of course. Then we will move on to a planet that fits our own mental setup better than the Earth. We have not always reincarnated here, but we have probably reincarnated here for maybe the last, 10, 20, 30, 50 incarnations. I can't really say, but we don't always belong to the same planet.
I've always felt like an alien, is what I've always said. So I wouldn't be surprised if I was an alien in another life.
Yeah, precisely.
We're going to go to our last...
So have I. Yeah, exactly. You think, That's a very strange behavior. I don't think I belong here. Stop the world.
That's my whole childhood experience. We're going to go to our last commercial break, guys. When we come back, and call into the show 219-230-4444 or Skype ID OOJBland00. Have you had a dream that you feel is a reincarnation experience or past life regression, or do you have a question for our guest on this topic? Call in, let us know. This is what we're here. We're an open forum. Nobody has to be afraid. We're all here to listen to each other about these experiences and open up our minds to these ideas, because there's so much more to reality. And wouldn't it be disappointing if this was only one life to live? I mean, that seems like such a waste. All right, guys, we'll be back after this short commercial break.
Don't be alarmed. It's only a laser sword fight. Don't be scared. It's only the Death Star destroying another world. Relax. It's only a movie, and it's all for fun. Director George Lucas and 20th Century Fox present Star Wars. Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested.
At Lombank, we're with you every step of the way.
We sell your dreams.
We're not a soulless, monolithic institution.
We are, but we use nostalgic imagery.
It's walking into your dream home.
You can't really afford it. We'll lend you the money anyway.
It's kids graduating from college.
With pointless degrees riddled with debt.
It's happy picnics on the beach.
There's sewage in the water.
Family portraits with everyone dressed the same.
You look like twats.
Canoeing in the lake.
By the power station.
Catching fireflies in a jar.
And watching them die.
Cheering at high school football games.
The kids are giving each other brain damage.
These are the things our lives are made of.
Interest rates only 33.4%.
Lombank. We're the American bank that truly, more or less, cares.
About profits.
Of the second kind, physical evidence of a UFO. Close encounters of the third kind, contact. From Steven Spielberg, the director of Jaws, comes one of the most ambitious and unusual films ever made. And what you will see has never been seen before. It's a cosmic mystery crossing what many scientists believe will be the next threshold of human experience. It is called Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It begins in an Indiana town and leads to one inescapable conclusion. We are not alone. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Certificate A. Now showing at the Odeon, Leicester Square.
The Science of Crime is back for another season.
The cigarette was hotboxed. He was nervous about something. His orthopedic surgeon records indicate
that he was a deaf woman who plays guitar. Mermaids, multiple wives, threesomes. This is serious.
They're not detectives or scientists, but they act like they are. They're crime scene cops that take matters into their own hands. These guys are so smart, they never have to look anything up.
He was neurotic, with a love of puppies and experimental cooking.
I knew it. It's a partial lesion caused by light to medium tearing of the thoraxal cortex. Obviously, you can tell at a glance by the fingerprint on the mustard bottle. Andrews, my acting sucks ass.
The Science of Crime. It's forensically boring.
From deep space, the seed is planted. Terror grows.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Certificate X. Now showing London Pavilion, Classic Oxford Street.
Heat 'em up.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, we've been talking to Elsa Byskov, author of Death is an Illusion. And is death an illusion? I believe it is. I've been, another thing that's been ingrained in me since I was a kid is I've always felt there's something more. Maybe it's because of all the weird things I've seen, but I always felt there's something more, because wouldn't it be just such a waste if this was the only life we lived, was just this one life, just this one experience? What a waste. And then what we do is sit the rest of our time in eternity. Wouldn't that be boring too? Wouldn't an eternity in heaven become boring? You might be like, I'd like to forget again and try it all over again. That's one of the reasons I've always thought reincarnation would be possible, because eternity could be boring. Maybe it'd be nice to forget for a little while and come back to Earth and redo it all over again. Some people would say, I don't want to do it all over again. But you never know. After you sit up in heaven for a while, right? Gets a little boring. Let's come back and do it again. That's one of the main driving forces of maybe why we come back. I don't know. We'll get into that, and you guys can call in and share your opinions. There's two ways you can call in. There's the phone line, 219-230-4444, or you can call in by Skype. Skype ID is OOJBland00. Call in. Tell us, have you had a past life memory come to you? Or do you believe in it? Or do you have a question for our guest? Just call in and let us know. All right, let's get back to our guest.
Hello?
Hello, Elsa.
Can I just say something about not wanting to come back?
Yeah.
Because that is, and I understand that people have had a not very pleasant experience, and oh my God, this is so hard, and I don't want to come back. But the thing is that when you're on the spiritual plane, and you will want to. You will see above you there will be more advanced beings, and you would say, I want to be an advanced being like that one I see up there. And then your board of directors or whoever they are there to help you, your guardian angels, will say, yeah, well, but in order to get up there, you first have to go down there to get the experiences and the wisdom that those who are above you up there have. So you will say, then I'll stay. I don't want to go down there. But at a certain point, you get bored, as you said. You get bored, and you say, okay, I realize I have to get on with my development, because I still have unfinished sides to my personality that have to be bred out of me. And there's only one way, and that is through hard work and receiving karma back. So there's no way around it. At a certain point in time, you will have to go back, and by the time that you actually go back, you're eager to do it. You're eager to do it because you realize that is the only way that you can move forward in your own evolution. So there.
You can't take care of the karmic stuff on the other side. No. You have to do that here.
Precisely. The other side, the spiritual side, is a plane of rest. It is only a place where you rest and you sort of get over whatever you were doing down here. But in order to move on and to evolve, you have to go back on this physical plane, and because that is the only place where you can actually learn how to become a more perfect person. You cannot learn anything.
Yeah, go ahead, Jane.
So are we all on different levels spiritually back in this physical realm right now? Is everybody on a different level?
Yes, well, of course there will be people that are more or less on the same level, but not everybody has reached the same point in their path, on their path of evolution. And I think that's pretty obvious, because when you look at yeah, there's people who are very good and very helpful and very all-loving, and then there are people who are absolutely not. Monsters. And I mean, there's no denigration is this. We could just look upon those who are not as evolved as younger brothers, that we can't blame them that they are only 10 and maybe we are 15 or 20. We cannot say, oh, you're only 10, you are no good. Of course they are good. They are just on the same journey as we are on, only they haven't come as far as we have. And in front of us, of course, we have people who are more evolved. So yes, we are standing on different levels, and it is very important actually to realize this, because then you know that you cannot judge another person and think that that person should know the same as you do and should behave as you do, because obviously that person cannot do it. I mean, we cannot act upon experiences that we haven't had yet. So it's all a question of how many experiences and how much wisdom have you reaped from those experiences that you have in your spiritual backpack that you take with you into each life. So it's important to also realize that when you're standing in front of another person, to know that that person is on a journey, and we don't know what that person's journey is all about. And that's why it's so important to not judge and not point your finger.
We do a lot of that in this world, though.
Yeah, we do. We really do. And that is really just a lack of understanding of the journey that we are all on, and understanding that we haven't all reached the same point in this journey.
You know, one of the things I've always thought about when it comes to reincarnation and consciousness and all that too, is the way the mind, this is kind of my concept of what God is in a way too, is how the mind works when it's put in, these are horrible aspects that have happened to humans, but when somebody who's been like isolated, like the multiple personality cases.
Yes.
Like somebody like Sybil, you know, her mother locked her in a cabinet and she had no sound or light, and she was isolated in there. Plus horribly treated when she wasn't in there. But her mind broke down. And what does the mind do? And this happened to POWs too. It creates new personalities. It creates friends. It has to create a new reality when it's in that isolation. And it seems like it's like the kernel to what consciousness is. If it's given no input, it starts to make its own.
You know what? I believe that when a person is treated like that, or if a child is abused sexually by a family member, this person that you mentioned that was locked in a cage or whatever, when the physical reality becomes so terrible that that person cannot take it anymore, actually it tries to escape from the physical body, and it makes a sort of a partial exit from the spiritual body. And on doing this, it opens up its aura to possession from other beings.
True.
And that is how multiple personalities arise, because then some of those people or spirits that are walking loose on the earth and without a physical body, they will come in and usurp that body together with the person who was there to begin with. So suddenly you have a multiple personality, and some bodies that have a weakened aura, and we have it again, the weakened aura will allow other spirits to enter. And some people have like 15 other entities living in their body.
So you think it's not just the mind breaking down, you think it is spirits?
Yes, I definitely do so. I think that these situations where, and there's a lot of evidence to this, and I've actually written about it in my book, The Undiscovered Country, how these possessions take place, and yeah, exactly, and how there are examples of people who have so many different personalities living in their body. And you know, it's really scary.
Well, my point about it though is about the consciousness. Maybe I put it this way. My other point is, if you dream, when you dream, there's other people in your dreams. Well, those other people is just your personality acting as those other people. Your brain can do miraculous things. It can create whole worlds inside your own mind. That you know, you're dreaming, you're in there, and you're talking to somebody. Well, that person you're talking to is your mind talking to itself. That's what I'm saying, is the consciousness itself seems to be able to make its own world, to break apart, to make make other entities within somebody their own mind. That to me, it's like that's what God is. We are all just different aspects of God playing out its multiple personalities.
Yeah, it's true that we are definitely aspects of God. But about the dreams, Martinus clearly says that when we are asleep, our physical body needs repair. And in order for that repair to take place, the big, strong energy field of our aura and consciousness has to leave in order for this repair to take place. So we leave our physical body when we sleep, and we move on to the spiritual plane. And of course, on the spiritual plane, we will meet other people. We will meet other people who are asleep, and we will talk with them, and we will have interesting experiences up there. And that is, of course. And then when the repair work is done on the physical body, we will return via the golden cable, or whatever it's called, the golden thread. The silver cord, thank you. That's not golden, it's silver. The silver cord. We will return to the physical body, but then we will have memories, some sort of recall of what actually happened while we were asleep. And that is what our dreams are. Our dreams are actually things that we are experiencing on the spiritual plane while our body is under repair. And then when we wake up naturally, that means the repair work is done. And we're ready to go on. And once the day consciousness takes over, because this day consciousness is very strong, we will normally forget most of our dreams. I think you agree to that.
Oh yeah.
But we could also have been up there during sleep, having had a fantastic experience with some inspiration, like saying you're a musician. You go up there and you meet other musicians, and you come back into your body, and you jump out of bed, and you write down a whole new melody.
I've written songs in dreams. Oh yes.
Yeah. So that is something that you were inspired to do while you are asleep, and you are up there. Your body is asleep, and you personally are up there on the spiritual plane. So Martinus says that is actually what dreams are about. They're actually things that you are experiencing and things that are happening while you are up there while your body is being repaired. So yeah.
One thing I'd like to get back to is, Jamie brought up about people being on different levels of their spiritual journey. So some people obviously are coming into this life and they're on one of their last ones. They're ascended masters or whatever, been born. Mm-hmm. Was that what Martinus was? Was he somebody who was getting towards the end of his journey? And that's why this all came to him?
Yeah, he was at the end of his journey. He was already living in the real human kingdom, and the real human kingdom has a part where it is no longer physical. And he reincarnated from there, as Jesus did, in order to help humanity, in order to reveal this world picture. So yes, he was definitely a totally finished human being, and everything he emanated such a huge amount of love. He was so kind and loving to everybody. He was, of course, a vegetarian from he was 30 after he had his consciousness expansion. And yes, he was definitely a highly evolved being.
There's some people. That are born. It seemed like that, and they don't eat meat right out. From the day they were born, they seem to be wise. So you wonder. There's people that believe they don't even have to eat food at all. That they live off their breath. Like I don't know. Yeah. People that you can attain this level of enlightenment.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And I have also read stories about those who can live on their breath. And Martinus says that as we evolve, we will move towards that. But that the majority of those who are here at the moment, of course, haven't reached that point yet.
Yeah, so don't go trying not to just live off your breath, people. Not recommended.
We're not ready for it.
Because people have died doing that. People have died trying to live that way.
Yeah. It will come, but don't force anything. There's no point in forcing anything, because it will come naturally to us as we move forward. So
now,
yeah.
I have to bring this up because it always, there, you brought up angels and all that. I had what I call a shadow person experience. I don't feel like it was, I still don't quantify it as demonic. Others would. But I don't feel like it was a human spirit that was messing with me. It felt alien-like. And it was a traumatic experience. I mean, this thing physically levitated me up off my bed and threw me down. This thing was pretty incredible. What did Martinus have anything to say about entities that were non-human, dark, and not good? Did he get into demonic at all? Or
He actually said that when people were evil and not good, it was because they were ignorant. They were ignorant about the bigger picture, and they hadn't reached the point of evolution where they had become more evolved. He didn't really mention that there were evil spirits around or anything. That was obviously not in his mission to do that.
I get that.
Yeah.
But it just makes you wonder what their part of it is in play. I can't help but think about it because of my experience.
Yeah, of course, I understand.
It opened my eyes to the fact that there's something out there beyond our perception that we understand.
Precisely, and I mean, this whole paranormal thing that we're talking about, it's really not paranormal. It's just because we don't know about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we don't know there's a spiritual level. Most people don't realize that there's a spiritual world, a whole world made up of other stuff than physical stuff. And once you realize that this spiritual world is a world of thought, of light thought matter, and that a thought is the everything that is in the physical world, everything in the man-made physical world was a thought before it became a physical thing. It's a chair, it's a computer, it's a lamp, it's a table. Everything was a thought before it became a physical thing. And the same goes for the other level. The earth was also created on the basis of a thought. And in order to have a thought, you have to be a living being. So, and now we have a huge living being that has all these thoughts and has created all these things. And that is what takes us up to the God level, because there's a superior being that needs all this for his own experience and for his own life. And that's what we are all part of. We are part of this huge universe. And basically, we are all one. We are all part of it. And we cannot, in the long run, keep being so egoistic and so self-centered and greedy and all that. Because sooner or later, we will realize that we are all one and that we should behave accordingly,
Well, it's just getting past the animal instinct of our side. Because I mean, what is greed? But you feel you need more and more stuff to protect yourself. I mean, what do animals do? But hoard things and make sure they have food. Constantly in the search for food. It's that part of us that we can't get over. Because I mean, even if you just throw out us being reincarnated as animals, it goes back to our early ancestors. Constantly striving to survive. You want to call cavemen or whatever. Cro-Magnon man, they had to kill, they had to survive. It's part of our who we were, But you're saying we can move beyond that.
I totally agree, and Martinus clearly points out that. But what is not a vital condition, like for us today, it's not a vital condition to eat meat, because we all know that we can live perfectly well on a vegan diet, even better. Then he says that once we reach a point when it is no longer a need, then it is against the laws of life. Because for the animal, it's a need to kill because it needs to eat the flesh of other living beings. But once we move beyond that, and it's no longer a vital condition, then it is against the laws of life. And that is what Martinus very clearly points out. He says that eating meat is fine for lions and crocodiles and tigers. But to the extent that we stand above those predators in our evolution, meat is unsuitable for us and against the laws of life, as I said. So we have to really understand that as our mentality changes, our needs also change. Because people will say to me when we're talking about this, they say, yeah, but we have always eaten meat and I need the meat and all that. But they don't realize that because our mentality changes, our bodies, the needs of our bodies also change. So it's always mind over matter. It's always mind over matter. So, yeah, what can I say?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever reach that point in this lifespan of getting to there or not. I'll promise you, there's a part of me that definitely wants to try. We'll see. We'll see what happens when it comes to we'll see. As the great Zen master would say, we shall see. But I definitely can see that it's something that I know deep down I want to do. I know, I just from a logical perspective how much we waste trying to produce livestock. Seafood though, it's hard for me to give up seafood too. Oh my god, see that, like, not even fish.
Yeah, well, it's also a life, and the life of the fish.
But so is a plant. So is a plant.
To it, yes,
but it's not conscious.
Of two evils, you have to choose the lesser evil.
I get that.
It's true. Yeah, it's true that a plant is also a living being, but it doesn't have an evolved nervous system like the animals do. So it cannot feel pain in the same way. And we have to eat something, and that is the plants are here for us to eat. That is the real food for us.
I definitely, I had to side on the idea of reincarnation. I definitely be on the side of believing in it. But death is still something it scares me. You see, death is an illusion, but what scares me about it is not that I won't exist on the other side. It's the idea of just being separated from those that I love, like my children. That's to me the scariest idea of it.
It's just a break, really. I mean, you will see them again. You will definitely meet them again, because we reincarnate with the same beings life after life after life, because our karmas get entangled. So I really wouldn't worry about that.
Well, it's also it's the idea. Maybe it's because of the ghost thing and my investigations into the ghost field and all that is also confusion. If I die in a horrible accident, am I going to be confused on the other side and end up being a ghost? Or, what is the other side like? These are the things that run through my mind all these years is, are we going to, is it going to be dreamlike? Are we going to be totally conscious of what's going on? There's just the ideas of what we are as a conscious being on the other side. Like, how fully aware are we,
Let me tell you something, Jason. Martinus says that you always die at the most loving time. So, I mean, there's the time, your time of death has more or less been already agreed when you reincarnated. So, and when you are ready to move across, then it will be at the most loving time. I mean, I really cannot underline enough how great it is to die. And if you read all the reports from the near-death experiences, they all say the same. It's fantastic. It's a wonderful experience. It's great.
Some of the things that I've always wondered about the near-death experience, and I don't know if Martinus had anything to say about this, some people have described, like, right before an accident, they felt themselves come out of their body right before the accident. Yeah. Like they were taken out of it, so they didn't experience the pain of it. Do you think that happens to people?
Yes, I definitely think that happens. I think that happens, like, for instance, I'm sure I was burned as a witch in a former life.
You and my wife. I'm serious. My wife's always believed that for herself.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, we were many witches in the Middle Ages. And I'm absolutely certain that once they lit the fire, I was out of there. I never experienced the actual burning, only, of course, I would experience it in the middle stage for maybe a short time, but I was definitely out of there before it happened, and I totally agree with those people that say they saw the accident coming and they hurried out, and as soon as you're out, you will be met by your guardian angels. You will be helped across. So there's absolutely nothing to fear.
I hope that's true for all the children that have died horrible stuff.
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
what I really hope
Absolutely.
that's true. Not for myself, whatever,
No.
but
But Martinus has a lot to say about the death of children, because children, they don't speculate so much. They don't speculate as much as we do, and they don't think, oh, what if I'm going to hell? So their passing to the other side will be very easy. It will be full of light and very easy, and they will immediately be helped by their guardian angels. So don't worry about that.
Well,
really.
see, I worry about that because, like I said, the child EVPs I've gotten, and I don't think all those children sometimes make it. I think there's sometimes some confusion or loss for some spirits, because I've heard the EVPs that make me convinced there's some children that somehow get lost.
I don't think so. I mean, that's not what Martinus says. He says that the death of a child is a light experience. It's an experience of light and love.
When you hear an EVP say, "Mommy, can you hear me now?" in a little child's voice, that's one of the things that just bothers me about it. Maybe some people believe there are other darker spirits disguised as children. So I've always given that as a possibility.
No, I really don't think so. Well, anyway. Well, that's not what Martinus says.
But in a way, I mean, if they are spirits, maybe they won't be there forever. Maybe eventually the guardian angels find them. It just takes time.
Yeah, it shouldn't take time, because there's no time on the spiritual plane.
True.
It's all now. It's like this switch. And all I can say is, Jason, we have all died millions of times, so it's nothing new. It's really something that
do we have a choice? Do we have a choice in who we become when we reincarnate too? Is a question we didn't even get to really tonight. I've heard some stories of kids that talk about oh, I saw you, my mommy and daddy, and I picked you. I've heard that story before from reincarnation.
Yeah, I heard that too, and yes, we do, because the way reincarnation takes place is that we have the spirit sitting on the spiritual plane ready to reincarnate. And then we have the lovemaking couple on the physical plane. But in order for conception to take place, the lovemaking couple need a spiritual being, because otherwise nothing will come of it. So, but it is very difficult for physical beings to reach the high vibrational level of the spiritual plane. And for that reason, we have the orgasm. The orgasm and everything that sort of moves up to it. In that way, we move up a scale of energy level. And once we reach the orgasm, we have reached a very high level of energy. And we all know that. We know that when we have an orgasm.
I'll tell you what, this gets a little personal, but I swear both times, I swear I know which nights both times I can see both my sons, because those nights I felt like something happened. I was like, dang, I think you're pregnant. Yeah. I knew my wife was pregnant both times before she was convinced of it. I made her go take a pregnancy test both times because I was like, you're pregnant, because I knew when I did it. Because afterwards I was like, oh man, I have this bad feeling. Like I'm screwed.
Yeah, and the way that the spiritual being finds his new parents is again by the law of attraction and the question of wavelengths, because the spiritual being will only be attracted to a lovemaking couple whose joint mentality and joint consciousness is on a wavelength with its own. So you see, in a way, we choose our parents not maybe through a conscious choice, but through the person we have become, through the level of vibration, the vibration that is in our spiritual body, and that is all a consequence of all the things we have learned. So we will be attracted to exactly the right parents that fit our level of development, that fit our level of intelligence, that fit more or less some of our talents. And that is how it happens. It's absolutely not a random thing who we are born to. But again, it's the law of attraction that decides this. So the law of attraction plays a huge role in everything.
Well, thank you. We are out of time. Thank you so much, Elsa, for coming on the show. I want you to give out your information where people can find your books and your website.
Thank you. My website is newspiritualscience.com. That is newspiritualscience.com. And there you can see all my books, and there's loads of free stuff to download, free chapters from my books, videos, audios, articles. And I have my blog where I have over 40 different articles also answering some of the big questions. So please visit my website, newspiritualscience.com, and there you will see all my books. And thank you for having me. It was very interesting.
Well, you were very interesting. I enjoy this subject. It's all. I want to read more on Martinus, because I mean he definitely sounds up the alley of my own, like Jason's interpersonal religious beliefs, I guess, or spiritual beliefs, the things I believe. You know, I'm open. I feel I accept I don't know. I've always, that's how I put it. I accept I don't know, but there's certain things I've accumulated over the years that give me a general idea of what I feel are the laws of the universe, basically.
Yeah. May I suggest that you start with my book, The Death is an Illusion, because that's a general introduction to Martinus's world picture. And I think it's easier, before you start reading his original work, which of course I recommend that you do, that you get a little overview of what it's about. And that's really what all my books are about. That's why I have written them, to sort of introduce people to his amazing work, his mind-blowing work.
Well, I definitely do it, and I'd love to have you, if I get a chance to get to read those, have you back on and talk about it more. Thank you so much, Elsa.
You're most welcome. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
All right, guys, that's it for the show. Next Sunday, we're going to have our good friend Terry Lovelace on. We had him on. We used to do 2-hour shows. We had him on. We had Heather Wade on with him. He's an alien abductee, wrote Incident at Devil's Den. That book really affected me because it made me think about some of my own experiences with maybe alien encounter or abduction, I might add. Terry kind of brought that to light when I read his book, and his story is so good and so immense we could barely cover it last time in 2 hours. Well, now we'll have 3 hours with Terry, and there's so much more. I want you guys to really get to hear this story from Terry more than we did last time, because it's so important to the UFO field and the alien abduction field. Terry's experiences are incredible, and there's more that's happened since we've had Terry on. My experiences with him, we'll probably get in on the show. All right, guys, we'll see you next Sunday. Same bad time, same bad channel. Don't forget to go to our Patreon. The links are in the show description. Whatever you can do to help keep this show going, support this show is greatly appreciated. Thank you. All right, guys, see you next week. Have a great night.